just the driver comes over the tunnel, and they're normally very calm, aren't they? They're normally very like, ladies and gentlemen, we've just got a train above us and head just blocking our way, and we'll be gone in about 5 minutes. This was, ladies and gentlemen, there's a fire. Right, okay, there's a fire. Okay, fine. Everyone just stay sitting. So I'm stood up now with my bag over my shoulder, 1 foot out the door, thinking, there's a fire. So I'm gonna leave now, this underground prison. And so anyway, everyone's still sitting there. Fire brigade start rushing down the steps. I'm like, no, I think I'm really gonna go now, guys. I think I'm gonna go. You gonna stay? There's a fire. No one moved whatsoever. I got out and got an Uber from Kentish Town.
No.
And as I'm getting into the Uber, fire engine, fire. Everyone's just sat there. What have you got to do in London to get people to move?
Incredible.
Yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it?
Incredible. Did you actually see the fire? I guess this is it, though.
Smell it. So it was obviously on the track ahead.
For me, this is the standard London. I don't believe it's true.
Yeah, you can smell it.
No, but they're kind of, unless I see a blazing fire, I'm staying sat. I don't want to lose. I see what you're trying to do here. You're trying to cost me my seat, and I'm not giving you my seat.
But this is it. What would you have to say over the tunnel to get Londoners to scatter first thing in the morning? Ladies and gentlemen, Putin's only gone and done it. You know, like what would it have to be? Anyway, there was some football last night.
There was indeed. I think we have to start with Liverpool. As much as I could talk about fires on trains all day, Liverpool did blow a 3-goal lead, but they did win. Jurgen Klopp didn't really look too fast. He was smiling and grinning throughout.
Yeah, he did. But look, to be honest with you, for the neutral, that was an absolutely fantastic game of football, wasn't it?
It was.
And before the game, he said that Salzburg played the way he likes his teams to play, and it showed really.
The Liverpool team, they can be moody at times. They can be in a good mood. But I'll tell you what, they weren't yesterday. They weren't in a defending mood.
Salzburg changed the system, which is actually didn't really cause us that many problems in possession. The only problem was our mood. So it was like a mix of. A couple of players wanted to control the game. A couple of players were still really lively. But we were not in that defending mood anymore. Like second balls were not that good. And because of the system change then, when we lost the ball, then constantly they had one free player in between the lines. So that caused us problems, obviously.
He talks about them like they're children, Like there was a few of them were a little bit playful, a few of them were here, a few of them. But unfortunately, none of them were in a defending mood.
Yes. Yeah, well, it did show last night. A little bit of complacency perhaps from Liverpool, but I don't think we can overlook the fact they don't look as good at the back as they did last year.
No, they don't. Is it as simple as, and by the way, I want to give him huge credit because what he's done has actually far surpassed what I thought he would do. Obviously, they have got a different goalkeeper in goal. Will that make much of a difference when you had arguably the best in the Premier League last season? Yeah,
well, I mean, look, it will do, especially at the elite level, but Alisson is coming back. Arjun's done pretty well. There was only one moment last night with the ball at his feet where you thought, when your kind of heart goes right up into your throat. But look, for the most part, he's done well. He's filler, isn't he? He's there to fill Alisson's quite considerably large gap. And there he is, he's done well.
He has, which I guess you have got experience being a filler as well. I mean, how does that feel? I mean, even now, technically.
Yeah, good. The glue, some would say.
Glue?
The glue that holds it all together.
Is that what they call it? Or stopgap? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway,
speak to the temp agency and ask them.
Lille, they were good last night. Chelsea were better. Good win for Chelsea, 2-1. I was actually really impressed with Lille. Just to make it known, actually, I was at the game last night. I was at Brentford versus Bristol City last night. So obviously, I have made sure I've rummaged through the highlights after the game, and I was really impressed with Lille.
Well, yeah, but I'm more impressed with Frank Lampard's Chelsea. Okay. I think it's sensational. That Lille atmosphere last night was rocking. Like it was a seriously kind of tempestuous atmosphere. And then Chelsea just came out. Tammy Abraham as well. We just have to talk about him for a little while because the guy's got it all. And I can't believe that it's still rumbling on. I mean, look, he scored 22nd minute. Really good, deft finish. It just looks like that kind of guy that he's got a touch like Velcro. And then from a 360-degree angle, he knows exactly where the goal is. And just second touch, bosh, in the back of the net it goes. And you just can't teach that.
He's a little bit special, isn't he?
I saw you winding up for that one.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a while. I've got a few more in the
It's going to get a little bit annoying if you keep doing it, let me tell you.
It really will. That was good.
Yeah, but no, so look, I think we have to say hats off to Frank Lampard's Chelsea because, at the start of the season we're always saying, aren't we, well, like, they're in a similar position to Manchester United. They're a team in transition. They've got a former player as a manager. Manchester United would have lost that game, massively so. In fact, it would have got a bit embarrassing, whereas Chelsea just strutted out. And even after they Lille equalised on 33 minutes, for Willian to pop up in the manner that he did, set up by Hudson-Odoi, of course, I can't speak highly enough about Chelsea at the moment.
Well, ex-Man United player Rio Ferdinand made comparisons with Didier Drogba and Tammy Abraham.
I saw elements in Tammy's game today that I hadn't seen as much as I'd like to before. His hold-up play, coming to the ball, bringing others into play. In the first half, one ball went up to him. It was Didier Drogba-esque. Chested it down for someone, runs on for the next phase. And I think he's developing nicely.
I think he is developing nicely. I would agree, Rio.
I can't believe there's still a conversation being had as to whether or not he plays for Nigeria or England.
Yeah, I don't think there is a conversation being had.
Well, it's still raising its head.
No, it is. I would be absolutely astounded if he chooses Nigeria. Look, unless it means that much to him, of course, that might be the only. But I can't imagine he would. Surely, from what we're seeing, he is the real deal. He's choosing England.
I can just see that maybe his agent or his PR guy's going, look, Sammy, mate, we'll fast track your way into the England squad if you just play the Nigeria card, all right? And then how far does that go? He's on a plane to Lagos, and he's just like, look, I'm not really sure. Just touch down, it'll be fine.
It's going to happen. Gareth's calling me any minute. Yeah. Any minute. He's got my number.
Massive press conference, contract in front of him. He's there signing it with a Nigeria shirt on. He's in the starting 11. He's doing, are you sure about this, Gary?
The game's starting in 2 minutes, Gary.
Yeah.
I think it's too late now.
Yeah, no, honestly, just you go out and play and it'll take care of itself, Tammy. He just ends up with a glittering career for the Super Eagles.
Indeed. Well, Lampard said the first Champions League win feels good.
It feels really good because this was a really hard place to come. And then add to that the pressure of not beating Valencia in the first game. And we're young, and this is the first time for a few of our younger players to travel in Europe, which is hard anywhere, and against a Lille team, which we saw the attacking threats that they had in parts of the game, but I thought we played really well.
First time a lot of young players have travelled in Europe. You'd have thought they'd have been on a few of the package holidays when they were younger.
They all booked with Thomas Cook, hadn't they?
Of course.
That was it. And if my experience of Ryanair or anything to go by, you can book, you can see the plane on the tarmac, but you ain't going anywhere.
No. A lot of young players thriving because of the Frank Lampard factor. Is that fair?
100%, because it's the confidence that he's given them and the security of their place in the team. But a lot has to be said again for their own individual attitude there, because the same's been done with Marcus Rashford at United, and he's used that position of solidarity to coast, it would seem, or maybe he's just going to bad form. Okay, whatever. But either way, similar kind of setup with your Jesse Lingards of this world. Whereas the Chelsea youngsters, your Mason Mounts, your Tomori's, your Abrahams, I mean, they are working their socks off. And look, you have to have a look at them and go, well, they would be at home in most Premier League teams now. And the idea now that this is some kind of breakthrough season, we are how many games into the football calendar this year, like 6, 7 or whatever it is. Like, they've established themselves, as far as I'm concerned. They're Premier League players now.
Indeed. On a slight tangent, and we'll get back to obviously this Dina Ash-Smith story, which is very, very interesting, but not such a positive story, and it's always frustrating when things like this come out in regards to Christian Eriksen.
Yeah, well, this is scandalous. This.
Yeah.
I
hate to touch on this, but I feel like we need to.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's the point. There's been no touching on anything.
No. But
so
people making out as if
it has. I mean, the idea that a kind of unfounded rumour like this, that Jan Vertonghen has done the dirty with Christian Eriksen's wife, causing a massive rift in the Spurs changing room involving Harry Kane. The idea that such an unfounded rumour as this could find itself on the back of the Times, and that, journalists up and down the country are going to be discussing this now, and it's just it's a disgrace. Why would anyone want to talk about?
No, it's horrendous, like that, because then all of a sudden you start to build this picture as to what might have happened, even though it hasn't. So it might be that I don't know, they met at a game and I don't know, one of them was injured and they're in the players' lounge and whatever, they follow each other on Insta. Probably don't do that because it'd be quite public, maybe. So maybe, I don't know, like maybe they've then taken each other's numbers.
Spoke to his people.
Yeah, and before you know it, they just suddenly have bumped into each other. I mean, there's so many things, but the thing is, it's not true. It's just so frustrating that people make such a deal of this.
And the Times as well purports itself to be a kind of bastion of just raw fact, and the idea now that on the back, it just says here, Eriksen denies affair rumour. Well, I mean, the word there, rumour, and now people are going to be talking about it all day, whether or not maybe it was raining and she was waiting at a bus stop and Jan Vertonghen walks up and he's just got the flowers. They were for his mum, but he's got them now and she's there and he gives them to her, and before you know it, Bridget Jones style, they're kissing, and the mind boggles just because of these rumours.
Well, this is it, because one of the things, a little psychology one for you, is that the mind doesn't process negative. If I tell you don't think of a pink elephant, What do you think of?
It's there now.
There you go. And
Yeah.
we're reading this. Look, it is a rumour that they slept together.
Yeah, just a total rumour which has been denied, and you would have thought that it's irresponsible journalism to pump that rumour out there, and because just in case anyone talks about it and then speculates.
So we're going to give it absolutely no
attention whatsoever.
No.
No attention whatsoever.
So just in case you missed it, what was the rumour?
Christian Eriksen's girlfriend is rumoured to have slept with Jan Vertonghen, causing a massive rift in the Tottenham changing room, something that is completely untrue, obviously, and that they've denied and that no one should talk about or even think about maybe how that scenario would have happened together at a team hotel. Maybe they just bumped into each other at, I don't know, like the Ivy or somewhere, because a lot of good restaurants right. Look, we don't know.
No. Okay. On a more serious note.
Yeah.
Apologies. Does this sort of story only come out when a team are doing badly?
Yes.
Well,
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, did it? I mean, I don't know. How well were Chelsea doing? How well were Chelsea doing?
They did pretty well. So maybe that's not true.
Yeah, John Serrier, what a lad. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll tell you, we're going to be talking some Dina Asher-Smith. We'll do it after this. It's 16 minutes to 7.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Hello, my name's Paula. I'm from the Shropshire area and I'm a business development manager. I use a spokesman said for my car insurance, where I've saved over £500, and also on travel insurance as well. So in total, me and my family have saved about £600. I would definitely use it again, and I would definitely recommend it.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
I am a god in Scotland. They've never seen anyone live to 70.
Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. It's that time in the show where we introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Chris Bailey.
It's business. It's business time. I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say it's time for business. It's business time. Ooh. It's business.
Morning, Mr. Bailey.
That's a sort of a real gravelly feel to today. Is there a third person in the room?
Do you know what? It's where I'm at today, if I'm honest, Chris. It's where I'm at.
Is it the Thursday lows? Was it a big night last night?
It was Brentford versus Bristol last night. So
That's
of course,
a big night.
There you go.
It's basically like the Hacienda down there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mental down there, Chris. You would absolutely love it.
It's also quite impressive. You managed to say two cities beginning with B in close proximity to one another at sort of 6:45 in the morning.
This is true. You do not understand how much coffee and other stuff I've had this morning. So, Chris, lots to talk about today. Where do we get started?
Let's talk about Tesco's. I mean, Tesco's. Who doesn't love Tesco's? 30-odd% of the food retail market. They obviously had a bit of a shocker a few years back. Sort of accounting scandals. They were losing all their customers and stuff like that. They appointed a guy about 5 years ago called Dave Lewis. He's done a storming job. And yesterday he said, he's exiting stage left, actually not until probably next summer. But he basically feels his job is broadly done. He's going to hand over the, I don't know what it's going to be, like some kind of chief apron or something over to the next Tesco CEO and exit into the night. So, yeah, cue lots of love-ins and everything else. It's all over the press and whatever today. But he generally has done a good job and, deserves all the plaudits.
Is this testament to... you should leave when your stock is high, because does he think that basically nothing that he could do now would top what he's done? He's going to wander into another really well-paid job off the back of this?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he said he hasn't got another job lined up, and no, I think he's a pretty genuine guy. But no doubt, now that he's made this announcement, his phone's going to be ringing off the hook if mobile phones can do that. But no, I mean, I think you're right, Patrick. Look, the reality is, timing is everything. He's actually turned it around. It's performing much better. There is still probably another year or two where if he just sort of chilled and kind of sat back, he could lap it all up. But yeah, you're right. You've got to exit when the timing's right, and I think actually he's doing a pretty good job of it.
Boris Johnson plans risk damaging Northern Ireland economy.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously the big conference speech yesterday, all jokes and hullabaloo and whatever else, all exciting stuff, I guess. But, reality is we get back down to the parliamentary whatever gubbins and whatnot with Brexit today, and there's a big meeting of EU ambassadors later on this afternoon discussing the technicalities and everything else. But reality is, on Brexit, if you have a no deal, apart from the UK obviously shoots itself in the foot at some level, but Ireland also gets hurt as well. And clearly you've got a lot of the politicians, both sides of the Irish border, kind of agitating and worried about that. So, I'm afraid Brexit, it rumbles on. Are we going to see something at the end of October? Actually, I don't know. Weirdly, I am paid by people to advise them about Brexit and other stuff like that, and I generally do not know what to say because it's all up in the air. So, exciting times.
Indeed. And the world's largest online betting firm created by Paddy Power owner.
Yeah, that's right. So you've had Flutter, which is the old sort of Paddy Power Betfair. They decided to change their name just for the hell of it and call their business Flutter, which is kind of interesting name. They've actually announced a merger yesterday with a Canadian company, sort of, again, with another convoluted name. It's the Poker Stars company, All-Star company. And they're going to combine together. They're going to be the biggest online betting company in the world, even bigger than Bet365 or GVC or, all the myriad of other ones that you can possibly choose out there. The rationale for this is quite clear. Look, the Flutter business, the old Paddy Power Betfair business, is strong clearly in the UK and other sort of proximate geographies. The All Stars business is stronger in Canada, and both of them are looking towards the States because, unbelievably, of course, for once in our lives, Europe and the UK is actually ahead of America on something, the world of online betting and sports betting and everything else. So between them, they're looking to conquer that. So that's the basic plan. Stock market seemed to like it yesterday, and I have to say, it does look a pretty good deal. Quite what they'll call the company, Flutter Poker All Stars, please bet with us.com, who knows?
I quite like that last one. Let's do it. Sounds good. Chris, as always, thank you.
See ya.
Chris Bailey, founder of financialorbit.com and apparently creator of fantastic domain names. Who knew?
Yes, who knew as well. Yes, fantastic.
Indeed. So here's one for you. The Salzburg players went to their fans after the game and celebrated last night. Have you ever heard of celebrating a defeat, Patrick?
Ooh, trying to think, actually, if I ever have heard of celebrating a defeat. I mean, the Remainers do quite a good job of it, don't they? Because if you look at most of them still outside Parliament now, you'd think they won, and actually you're losers. So maybe. But apart from the Remainers, no, I haven't really known anyone celebrating a defeat.
No.
I'm just trying to think, actually. Isn't that a bit weird? Like, doesn't that just hint at a bit of a kind of loser mentality around the Salzburg players?
Well, I guess there was the fact that they had... it was an incredible comeback. I guess if you're going to Liverpool, who comes back from 3-0 down, in fairness? Okay, they lost
Liverpool,
in the end.
yeah.
Yeah, well, they lost, but they did. They came back from 3-0 down. I can't remember the last time that someone's done that.
Yeah, no, but
to
you've
Liverpool.
lost, haven't you? Can you imagine what Sir Alex Ferguson would say if his United team had gone to the crowd, like Roy Keane had gone to the crowd and been like, yeah, okay, we nearly came back.
But then is it the mentality of, if it is a smaller team, which it is, and I guess I'm trying to think of an equivalent, maybe a championship team in the FA Cup, and they come back from 3-0 down to 3-3 at Anfield, they end up losing, but they'd still go and speak to the crowd, and the crowd would obviously be very, very proud of them. In fact, the BBC Football Daily team had their say on the matter.
The players of Salzburg have come back out, and in front of their 2,500, 3,000 travelling support, they are celebrating in front of the Anfield Road end. I mean, it's a big deal for Salzburg to be back in the Champions League after a 25-year absence, but at the end of the day, they have lost the game.
I'm with you. I'm baffled.
You know what I think it is, and this speaks volumes about how Liverpool are regarded around Europe, because I think the fear before that game would have been that you go and get battered.
Right.
That you end up coming off the wrong side of 7-2 or something like that. You go home absolutely, utterly humiliated. Your entire club's history just rips to shreds in one foul 90-minute swoop. Yeah. And they didn't have that. So fair play to them. But I suppose that's the relief, isn't it, now, that if you go to Liverpool and don't get spanked, then you are so happy it feels like a win.
Same, Man City, Liverpool, and I think that's exactly it. Like I say, 25 years, first appearance in the Champions League for 25 years. So I get it. I mean, as much as it is a bit bizarre, they lost the game, they've got no points, but actually it was a fantastic game of football. You know, the fact that, again, I'm trying to think, if you do know, let us know. 0208 70 20 558. Who was the last team that actually came back from 3 goals down against Liverpool? You know, I can't think. Man City, the same. I can't think of teams that have done that.
Yeah, fair play. I just want to touch on the fantastic performance last night in Doha at the World Athletics Championships from Dina Asher-Smith, who has won the 200 metres with a time of 21.88 seconds.
Really comfortable as well.
Yeah, she's a sensation.
She was the outstanding favourite. It's the first Brit, I believe, to win a sprint gold since Linford Christie.
Well, amazing. I mean, that's fantastic. So I was speaking to Ewan Thomas actually yesterday, and we were chatting about getting him on the show, and he was saying, oh, yeah, I'll come on when Dina wins. And it was that confident. He was that confident about it. And her mum has tweeted as well. I saw that first thing this morning, actually, when I was in the back of my Uber after my tube sat on fire and I had to get an Uber. Anyway, her mum has just tweeted that she's the proudest person in the world at the moment. World champion. She can't believe it. Well done, Dina Asher-Smith. You know, with all this Mo Farah stuff that's been going on with him and Salazar, it's a nice little relief, isn't it, to have just something to cheer about British athletics.
Indeed. Well, BBC Sport spoke to Dina straight after a victory.
Dina Asher-Smith, world champion over the 200 metres. We can see the emotion, we can see how much it means to you. It's rare that we see you break down, but my goodness, you deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you. I just don't know what to say. I don't think it's properly sunk in, but it's just something that between now and like the last World Champs, John and I knew that I could do it, but there's a different thing kind of going and doing it, and to run 10.83 and 21.88 being tired, because it's been a long Champs, I'm tired. It means so much, and yeah, sorry.
Don't be sorry. 6 races back to back to end with a 21.88, a personal best. You timed your season to perfection. Anybody watching will be thinking, this is exhausting, but you can see how motivated you were to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was tired, but I think I woke up today and thinking, well, this is it. Like, this is, well, obviously I've got the relay, but this is the last year individual, and this is the moment that you did all your work for. This is what we knew that we could achieve if the season went well. So obviously the tiredness just disappeared when I needed it to. So,
and it's been a big.
That's, of course, Dina Asher-Smith. And in other news as well, for those that missed it, Patrick Christys has been given an award, the 30 under 30, which was huge. Patrick, I want to say congratulations firstly. How do you feel?
This is what we work for!
So Patrick Christys, they're very emotional. It's a big honour. We will be going to a red carpet event. Are you okay, Patrick? You okay? You good?
Back in the room.
Good lad. Well, look, I mean it. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I'm all right. Well done, Dina.
By the way, just on a serious one, because I feel like you've mocked her slightly there, I would be just as emotional as her.
Well, no, look, I am only taking the mick out. She has done fantastically well. And on a serious note, it does bring a little tear to the eye when you see her embracing her mother. She's crying in the stands. And you just think the amount of sacrifice that these athletes go through, and the pressure that they're under as well all the time. And there's such a fine margin. Look, you've got the starting gun goes off, and it's, well, in her case, it's just over 20 seconds until you either are or you are not world champion, and that's 4 years worth of work, or however long it is. Fantastic stuff. Darren Campbell, the Olympic gold medalist, has been speaking. So when we come back, we'll just hear from him as to exactly why she's such a world-class talent.
I did have a tear in the eye. It's true, although that might just be the crippling tiredness that I feel right now. 3 minutes to 7.
Love sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. you'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit wedooh.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. We've just discovered that finally we've been calling for a doorstop for quite some time because essentially to try and explain what happens when you open the door here, it smashes the TV.
I'm going to tweet a picture of this.
Please tweet a picture. To the point where the TV barely works now because it's got a massive crack down the middle of it. So thankfully we've had a doorstop put in, which apparently does nothing. It still cracks into the TV.
Put the doorstop in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So the door still thunders into the telly.
Anyway, we've got loads to come. Stay with us. We're going to be talking more about the games last night. Of course, big list of championship fixtures we're going to be talking about as well. We've got Chris Kirkland coming on as well to talk about Liverpool after their 4-3 win last night. The time is 7 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7, Boris Johnson is starting 10 days of hard sell after revealing his proposals for a Brexit deal yesterday. Downing Street says intensive discussions will get underway today, while the Prime Minister will also brief his cabinet before facing MPs in the Commons. The DUP has welcomed the plans, but Labour says they won't support them. The EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, insists Brussels wants to find an agreement.
There is progress. But to be frank, a lot of work still need to be done to reach and to fulfill the 3 objectives of the backstop: no border, all island economy, and protecting the single market.
Meanwhile, an American businesswoman has denied receiving preferential treatment from Boris Johnson when he was London mayor. Jennifer Akuri has told the Daily Mail the allegations about their relationship are an orchestrated attack. The High Court is due to rule on whether the government discriminated against women born in the 50s when they raised the state pension age. Campaigners say the increase from 60 to 65 was unfair. In sport, Dina Asher-Smith has become the first British woman to claim a global sprint title after storming to victory in the 200 metres at the World Athletics Championships. The big favourite followed up her silver in the 100 metres by setting a new British record over the longer distance. She says it's an achievement she'll never forget.
Just for it to all have paid off and just to be a world champion, it means so much. It's something that when I started in track and field, I didn't think I was ever going to be able to be world champion. I just always aim to improve every year, so it means a lot, yeah.
Chelsea have picked up their first win in this season's Champions League. They beat Lille 2-1 in France. Liverpool beat Red Bull Salzburg 4-3 at Anfield. And the remnants of Hurricane Lorenzo will bring gales to parts of the UK later. The Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for Northern Ireland this evening. That's the latest. I'm Anna Bates.
This is Love Sport.
At Lidl, we're big on baking your breakfast in store. Big on melt-in-the-mouth or butter croissants. Big on flaky pain au chocolat. Big on sticky sweeter than sweet cinnamon buns. All from just 35p at your local Lidl in-store bakery. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores, excludes NI.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Good morning. Lost for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you until 10. As always, get in touch. 0208 70 20 558 on the WhatsApp. We're on the socials at Love Sport Radio or on YouTube these days as well. Just type in Love Sport Radio on YouTube and you will see our pretty little faces chatting away to you. There's lots going on this morning. Of course, we're talking a lot of Champions League. Liverpool winning 4-3, although they did blow a 3-goal lead, but were victorious in the end. Chelsea victorious away at Lille. And the big news, of course, in athletics, Dina Asher-Smith wins the 200-metre gold at the World Athletics Championships. And lots more going on as well, which we'll be talking about in the next few hours. Patrick, how are we?
Yeah, I'm good. I got told off by our producer before the news because I kind of made light of the fact that Dina Asher-Smith had broken down in tears of joy after her sensational victory in Doha, winning the gold medal in the 200 metres, time of 21.88 seconds, which is a British record. It's her first global gold medal to go with the 3 that she's already got from conquering Europe last year, and she won silver in the 100 metres. A star is born. And when you see on the back, well, she's been born for quite a while, actually, to be fair, but she's definitely now a real star. And Alberto Salazar, the whole scandal, the whole thing embroiling UK athletics because of Mo Farah's involvement as well. And now the Times are doing a big spread, which we're going to come on to later, about some other people in UK athletics with questions to answer. One of them's called Barry Fudge. Anyway, so these people, it's nice to see a really good news story, isn't it, about British athletics, a girl who's just gone out and trained her backside off for however long to reach the pinnacle of greatness. Well done, Dina.
Indeed. I believe we can hear from Barry Fudge.
Yes.
No, Dina. We can hear from Dina.
I dreamt of this, but now it's real on my own.
And you join a club of amazing women: Jessica Ennis-Hill, Christina Hurugu, Fatima Whitbread, so many women as a world champion, Dina. And to join that club, what does that mean?
It's going to make me emotional. Stop saying it. It means a lot, but yeah, it means a lot. So I'm really happy, but ultimately I'm going to enjoy this one and use it as motivation to getting into the big one next year. But yeah, thank you so much.
It was a fantastic journey. Have you've seen the race, I take it? She won by an absolute, a canter.
Yeah, I thought she was going to Usain Bolt it at one point and just stop, maybe finish it backwards. Whoop, look at this. Hey!
She did, she won by a canter, which makes you think that surely this will then be many more to come, you would think.
Yeah, so she's only the 7th British woman to win a gold medal at the World Championships. We've got Fatima Whitbread. We've got Liz McColgan, Sally Gunnell, of course, who is actually Cockney rhyming slang for...
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Paula Radcliffe, Christina Hurugu, Jessica Ennis-Hill and Dina Asher-Smith.
Indeed. So look, it is a huge achievement, a massive well done to Dina Asher-Smith. Do you know it is a time as well that would have won gold at 13 of the 17 World Championships? So it's not a case of, sometimes you'll get the criticism as, well, is it a weak field? It's certainly not. Like, she is up there. She's a supreme athlete.
She is. Now, Darren Campbell, of course, an Olympic gold medalist himself, he's been talking as to exactly why Dina Asher-Smith did as well as she did. So he's pointed out some things that set her apart from the rest. So one, exploding. Saying Dina is in that top echelon of sprinters who can run over 60 metres, 100 metres and 200 metres extremely well. So it's just her explosive pace there. Yeah. preparation as well. Tina has raw speed, and to be able to compete over 60 metres and 100 metres, so essentially she just prepares well. I suppose that's what that means. She's a relaxed racer. So you see some people, don't you, and they're really tense on the block. They're doing it all. Now, Usain Bolt just looked like he couldn't give a hoot, could he? Just, he's just been at McDonald's to get 50 chicken nuggets, don't you? He strutted out onto the track. Someone's had to face him the right way. He's done his arm thing. There he is. Whoop, lightning bolt. And then he just goes and wins the race. Dina's not a million miles off that. She's super chilled out. And mind games. Now, this is interesting. I know you'll like this, mind games, Rich, because obviously we play them with each other every day, don't we?
Yeah.
She may have seemed a little bit more drained in the 200-metre final, but what you do not want to do, even if you are tired, is show your rivals that you are. So even though she was knackered, she's had 6 races already, this Doha World Championships. She put on a bit of a front to make them think that she was, essentially as ready as she's ever been, and then she went out and stormed it.
Yeah, mind games are important. Must say, you haven't put any weight in the last week, just so you know. But do you know what? There's a few things there. Preparation, by the way. This is one that you did mention it. The likes of Usain Bolt, the likes of Ben Stokes. Right, Ben Stokes, after he goes and hits that incredible knock, he is going to Mackie D's, he's getting whatever. I do wonder, actually, how much preparation does play a part. And I'm saying this as someone who prepared to the nth degree, but I see so many of these world-class athletes, you do wonder whether they are actually as committed. I get the impression she is, though, from what I know of her, and again, my limited knowledge, and certainly I'm sure we'll learn more in the coming days given this achievement.
Yeah.
But it does seem like she does things right, and she has put so much into, which explains, she was obviously very emotional, and it does explain that, I guess, when you've put so much into it and you do get that reward. We had the example the other day of the lad that missed out by, 500th of a second or something.
Jamili.
Yes, of course, Jamili. So, it's the two ends of the spectrum where you put your absolute life and soul into something. Sometimes you don't get the rewards, but sometimes you do, and she has in a big, big way.
Yeah, exactly right. I do think that when it comes to top elite level athletics, the preparation really does matter. I don't think you can blag it. You're going up against the best in the world. But I think with other sports, and you rightly said there about Ben Stokes with the cricket, and I think to an extent some footballers, it's about your mentality and your mindset. You have a natural ability, obviously. So in Ben Stokes' case, you can hit a ball a long way. You can obviously hit a ball going at him at 90 miles an hour, good in the field, good with the ball. So it is a case of making sure that you're mentally right. And if your mental preparation is that you want to go and have a McDonald's the day before a game and spend the day with your feet up, and your warm-up maybe is the kind of Shane Warne-esque 2 cigarettes and a can of Coke, well, Shane Warne was all right. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's about getting yourself in that right mindset. But I think with athletics, you can't blag it, can you really?
No, absolutely. Back to the Champions League, because, of course, there were 2 teams of ours involved last night. 2 victories as well, although certainly not simple for either team, you'd say. And, in fact, the Lille game in particular, Liverpool, we know, 3-0 up, came back to 3-3. Salzburg, magnificent performance from them, ended up winning 4-3. But the Lille game, there was a time when it was at 1-1 where Chelsea, they were up against it a bit. A couple of half chances that Lille had, and it could have been a very different story.
I thought Chelsea, I've got so much respect for the Chelsea team. I never thought I'd say it. I respect them so much more than when they had that, almost like the kind of Galactico element of them. They ended up winning 2-1, and Tammy Abraham put them in front. Tammy Abraham, I could talk about him all day. He's an absolutely brilliant talent, and someone that I could see potentially offering more than Harry Kane for England going forward in the future, as long as he does choose England and not Nigeria, of course. Willian then popping up with a sublime goal, set up, of course, by Callum Hudson-Odoi, who just showed another element to his game last night. I didn't realise how strong he was. He was just palming off Lille players like he's been watching the Rugby World Cup. If you get anywhere near him, bosh, out comes Hudson-Odoi's arm, and see in a bit, you're on the floor. And they're just exceptional. I think it's about this mentality, though, It is a young side going to Lille, where the atmosphere was absolutely rocking last night. Lille are a threat. They really are. Their striker there, Osimhen, is, I would expect to potentially see him in the Premier League in the next couple of years. He's got a good reputation over there. He's scoring goals for fun. And they went and they battled, and then they went and got the win. I can't speak highly enough of them. 15, by the way, is the number of goals that Willian has been involved in since his Champions League debut for Chelsea in 2013, more than any other Chelsea player.
It was a fantastic finish. For those who haven't seen it, do watch it. It's a volley. He's actually volleyed it into the ground, which worked in his favour. He almost lobbed the goalkeeper due to the fact that he volleyed it so hard into the ground. Tomori impressed again. There were actually a couple of shaky moments, both for Tomori and Kepa, right at the end of the game, which they thankfully got away with. But Joe Cole compared the young centre-back to colleague Rio Ferdinand.
Last night, he's been Chelsea's best performer in the last 2-3 games.
Sorry, this is the best bit, Joe.
Go on, yeah.
1v1, go on,
Yeah.
you try and run me. You try and run me. That's what you want from your centre-half there.
Like a young Rio Ferdinand there, just the arm there. I've had that arm across me a few times.
Indeed, like a young Ferdinand. He does look good, and he's one that, I guess it's like, we have it with goalkeepers or goalkeepers, centre-backs. You don't necessarily make the headlines because you're not scoring goals, you're not getting assists, but actually over a period of time, people start to see those qualities shine through.
Yeah, 100%. He does look a real talent. And I think whilst, Abraham's banging in the goals and gets a lot of the plaudits, Mason Mount, creatively kind of running the show just behind the attackers. I think it's easy to forget Tamori, isn't it, in the work that he's been doing.
Indeed. And in fact, of course, he did get the assist for the first goal last night. And, of course, Hudson-Odoi got the assist for the second goal, which was, again, and Tammy Abraham scoring the first. So many names that we're mentioning, so many products of the academy, which is great. Just to touch on a couple of the other results last night in the Champions League, Barcelona beat Inter Milan in the arguably the biggest tie of the night, sort of 2-1 to Barcelona. And Ajax had a good win away at Valencia. We're going to be talking, of course, as well about the Europa League tonight. There's some big games.
Well, yeah, just on that, I'm just going to do a very quick whiz through some of the things that we've got coming up. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is worried about one of the worst pitches. That's what his assessment of AZ Alkmaar's pitch has been. In fact, actually, I believe we can hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
I'm surprised that they've chosen to play on this pitch when they had to. When I've looked at it, because it's not the best I've seen. It's one of the worst ones I've seen for a long while.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, Ollie, some of the Manchester United performances have been some of the worst I've seen for quite a long while as well. So, I mean, pot kettle black, eh?
Indeed. They, of course, take AZ Alkmaar. I mean, it should be a comfortable victory for United tonight, you'd think.
Well, yeah. I mean, it should be, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Paul Pogba's apparently not there. He's still got a dodgy ankle / really wants to leave the club. Imagine his ankle would magically cure itself if all of a sudden he was told there's a helicopter over there and it is going to land at the Bernabeu and it's taking off in 30 seconds. I don't reckon he'd be hobbling around, do you?
You need to sprint to make it.
Yeah.
Can you make it?
Yeah, of course he would. Of course he would. He'd do everything. He'd be there in seconds, wouldn't he?
There was when we played, there was we had a few different names for it, but the Friday hamstring that used to come out for a lot of players. Certainly when like a certain away trip or over the Christmas period, certain players that suddenly mysteriously get injured for Boxing Day, the 28th and New Year's Day, that week.
Oh, really?
It was
why was that? Do you think the change in temperature?
I think it was, yeah. I think it was just the fact that, around that time of the year, pitches get a little bit heavy, I guess.
Yeah.
And some of them, they just need a bit of downtime. They need to let their hair down and go out on Christmas Eve, which then makes them feel so much better, which means we get better performances in the new year.
Well, exactly, that's it. Just some other stories that are going around at the minute. Of course, Bernardo Silva has been charged by the FA over his, quotes, racist tweet for over Benjamin Mendy, so we'll get stuck into that. Spurs are fearing that Harry Kane is so frustrated that he might want to leave the club, and also apparently the Spurs players are convinced that Poch is angling for an exit. He's almost trying to get sacked, but apparently the club is saying they will not part with him unless somebody stumps up £32 million.
Indeed, lots more to come, and we'll be talking more about Dean Asher-Smith, of course, too. We're going to be talking a bit of Championship next.
I am what would happen if the comments section became human and ran for president.
This is Love Sport. Digital radio offers great sound quality and more stations than ever before. And we want to make sure that you get Love Sport on your digital radio. Just press the auto tune or auto scan button and Love Sport will appear on your menu. Love Sport on digital radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Stop paying too much for your energy bills. Brian saved money on his at spokesmansaid.com. Can you?
I'm Brian from Swaddling-Cote, South Derbyshire, and I saved about £400 on my energy bill with a Spokesman Said. The iSpokesman Said website was very easy to use, and the money I saved I put towards a holiday.
Compare home energy quotes from the UK's biggest suppliers in just a matter of minutes with spokesmansaid.com. fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit wedooh.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
That's what breakfast for originally, Patrick. Christys, we're here with you until 10 a.m. Of course, there were a lot of Champions League games last night, but there was also a lot of Championship games last night and some interesting results indeed. And I believe we have Gab Sutton, owner of the Football Lad, will be on the line very shortly to discuss them. Thank you. That was smooth. Just to touch on a few of the results with you, Patrick, because I was actually at one of the games myself.
Well,
which
talk to me about that.
That's exactly what I was going to do. I didn't need to be cued, but thank you for the cue. It was Brentford versus Bristol City, and the game finished 1-1, and it was two very good teams, I have to say. Of course, I have an allegiance with both, so I was quite happy that it finished 1-1, if I'm honest. But I'm really impressed. You know what? Brentford certainly shaded it on the night, and I see them obviously they're 15th in the league, 12 points from 10 games, but there is so much promise in that team. The way in which, I mean, in fairness, Dan Bentley, obviously the ex-Brentford goalkeeper who was in goal for Bristol City, made several brilliant saves, and it was one of those nights they couldn't get past him, and really it was a bit of a sucker punch late on. Bristol City scoring with 2 minutes to go to get the draw. So a great result in the end for Bristol City, a bit of a smash and grab, if truth be told, but once again, and I feel like we say this too often about Brentford, they seem to me a team that are good enough to finish in the playoffs, but the last few seasons they've been there or thereabouts. Statistically, they've been one of the best in the league, but not quite being able to make the playoffs. Again, I'm seeing similar things in this Brentford squad.
Yeah.
Sam Parkin predicted a score draw on our show yesterday, as it goes. So there you go. Good old Sam.
Well done, Sam. Yeah, classic Sam. I've just been alerted to something, Rich, that might have happened outside the game.
Oh, go on.
Last night involving you.
Oh dear.
And a car.
What's happened
now?
Yeah. Well, do we go into that right
big
now?
time,
Yeah, no, I got a parking ticket, which I got a little bit annoyed.
Did you?
A little bit annoyed, yeah, because I paid for my parking, came back. In fact, the parking guy was there when I got there, so I got out the car, paid for it, put it on my car, walked, had a quick coffee, came back to my car. He was still there, and he put a ticket on my car.
Why, though? You'd paid for your ticket?
There was a tiny little sign that no one could see, that apparently it was suspended for the day. So he watched me park, said hello to me. We had a nice little...
Oh, no,
said hello. Said hello, yeah.
Oh, he didn't give you the big one. Like, oh, hello, you're right, mate. How's it going? Bang, 60 quid.
Wished him a good day, and then there you go. 110, actually.
What?
Chiswick. Yeah, that's what they pay in Chiswick. That's stupid. It's the most expensive cost of coffee that I've ever had.
Wait, so did you not say to him, like, look, mate, like, I've just parked up, because this happens to loads of people. Everyone's got a parking ticket story, right? Everyone's got a parking ticket nightmare. I've had several. But did you not say to him, look, man, like, why didn't you tell me I couldn't park here?
Yeah, I said that. He's like, there's a sign there. I was like, well, I couldn't see the sign. It's a tiny little sign. That's not an obvious sign. Surely, if you can't park there, just stick a load of cones there or put something big so that I know I cannot park there.
And he's hovering. You know what? You go on.
The annoying thing was there were 10 spaces in a row. 9 were taken, which apparently were okay. But this one space in the middle of the 10 was the one that you couldn't park in.
This is annoying. Do you reckon with traffic wardens that they wait to see someone who's got a nice car and then they stick a ticket on them because they're sick of their miserable little lives?
I mean, look, it's a theory. I wouldn't want to express those kind of thoughts. I like to think that we live in a lovely world and everyone has a pure mindset.
What was it you said to him?
I wished him well.
Right, okay.
I wished him well in his future endeavours.
Moving on.
In terms of other results last night, there were some interesting results, to say at least. Derby, I'll tell you what was interesting about the Derby game. Not so much the result, although they were disappointed not to have beaten Barnsley. No disrespect to Barnsley, but of course they are down the wrong end of the table currently, and it was an opportunity for Derby. And the fact that it was a Corley Woodrow injury time equaliser. but more the fact that Tom Lawrence and Mason Bennett both played in this game.
Yes, so these are the two footballers that are currently undergoing the drink driving scandal. So Derby went on a team night out. Well, it's supposed to be a day out, really, I suppose, and it ended up in a night out. And, they crashed their cars on the A3. Both of them were charged with drink driving. Of course, Derby captain Richard Keogh suffered a horrible knee injury that looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the season, and potentially that could be it for his career, possibly, if you believe what you read in the press. And it was a real shock that they played last night. I thought. I certainly couldn't believe this. Bennett was a second half sub, came on in the 89th minute. So I proved they didn't really need to bring it on. Tom Lawrence started the game and won the penalty for the second Rams goal. Bit of a bizarre thing this though, because look, when Sir Alex Ferguson was in charge at United, I can remember watching a game once against Blackburn. I think it was New Year's Eve-ish, or New Year's Day even. Sorry. And apparently Phil Jones and Wayne Rooney had just been out for a meal with their respective partners the night before, and Fergie decided that this was inappropriate, and he dropped him. These two have literally been charged with drink driving. The captain of the club has got a shattered knee now. There's videos emerging of them being sick into urinals and stuff, and they're going and playing for Derby.
I'll tell you what, I'd love to get the thoughts of Gab Sutton, owner of the Football Lab, who is on the line now. Morning, Gab.
Morning, folks. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, good. Before we do touch on the football, so it was interesting that both of these players were involved for Derby last night. Both Tom Lawrence and Mason Bennett, of course, involved in that incident last week, which I think Richard Keogh, they're saying 15 months he's likely to be out for. Were you surprised to see them playing last night?
I think so, yeah. I think that sometimes it doesn't always sort of send the right kind of message in terms of how you've got to conduct yourself to represent a certain football club or any football club, and I'm surprised that Philip Cocu decided to put them in so soon as well after the incident. It's at most like a week ago, so probably not a sensible thing to do, in my opinion. I suppose from Cocu's point of view, you'd argue Derby don't have the biggest squad, and there's probably not a like-for-like replacement for somebody like Tom Lawrence in that squad. But I think on the general principle, I think you'd have to question the decision.
Yeah, and touching on some of the games last night, so it was Barnsley 2, Derby 2. Charlton took the lead early, and you thought maybe they were going to continue this incredible run that they've had at the start of the season, but in the end they did go down 2-1 to Swansea. By the sounds of things, Swansea was slightly the better team?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Obviously, fantastic strike from Jonathan Lecco. He in that first minute, but really I kind of see, from seeing the highlights of that game, it seems like Swansea generally had the control of that game. They had sort of Matt Grimes dictating from the base of the midfield, and then sort of Jay Fulton really pushing on from there. And I think that gave them a real sense of control, and Selena in the second half was excellent as well. So, I think a strong performance from Swansea, and just the one defeat of the season for them so far.
Yeah, indeed. And Luton Town Millwall drew 1-1, which was an interesting game. It's one of those games that I know it's a little bit early, but two teams that it'll be a bit of a struggle for both of them, you'd think. Certainly down there in terms of their budget this season, but it was a decent game by all accounts.
Yeah, I think so. I would suggest that Luton were on top for the first half of that match, but I think in the second half, Neil Harris changed the system, and I think this is something a lot of Millwall fans actually question about Neil Harris. Does he have the tactical sort of flexibility? I think he showed at Kenilworth Road evidence that he does, because...
Oh, unfortunately, I think Gab has dropped out, unfortunately. Do you know what, Patrick, someone's going to say about this league, and we touched on this a lot, but the top 11 places, I know we're 10 games in now, and the top 11 places are only separated by 5 points, which... It's one of the reasons I do love the Championship. There's such a small margin between so many of these teams. So many teams, even teams that currently are down the bottom, they will still have aspirations of a playoff place. I even think the likes of Stoke, I know they've started horrendously. Although, interestingly, with Stoke, as far as I'm aware, there has been no change in management yet. I want to get, if we get Gab back on the line.
Yeah, it was strange that, actually, because we saw Nathan Jones come out yesterday, or we heard him talk yesterday anyway, and it was basically like a resignation speech, or it was essentially him saying he's gambled with people's lives, it hasn't paid off, he's very sorry. It's weird. I mean, you wouldn't have thought that they would be hanging around to pull the trigger.
Yeah, well, in fact, I want to ask that question. So, Gab, on the game that happened not last night before, with Stoke, of course, going down 1-0 to Huddersfield, Nathan Jones, as it stands, is still in a job, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I mean, I think after the Forest game, clearly Peter Coates and the board were keen to stick with Nathan Jones. They saw enough evidence in performances to suggest that the players were playing for him, that the environment was good, that lots of the tactics are suitable, but that they're just not finishing their chances. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, perhaps. But at the same time, they didn't hit the target in the Tuesday night 1-0 home defeat to Huddersfield, who are, of course, bottom of the table. So I think you've got to really ask questions about that. And maybe when so many results go against them as they have, you've got to maybe ask whether there's a wider systematic problem. I think regardless of whether or not it works out for Nathan Jones at Stoke, I do think he'll go on to be a great manager. But clearly the results haven't been good enough for him so far.
Just a quick one generally on the Championship. I was just saying to Patrick the fact that once again we're 10 games in, there's only 5 points that separate the top 11 teams, and even teams below that are going to have aspirations. I was at the Brentford game last night, and it was great to watch them. And bearing in mind they're 15th in the table, I could genuinely see them pushing for certainly a playoff place, if not even higher than that. They're very, very good, but it's such a competitive league once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of Brentford, what I like about them and Thomas Frank is that they've got the ability to mix their game up. I think Frank was aware that Barnsley pressed them high up with a lot of energy, and they knew they were susceptible to kind of early balls down the sides, which I think if Brentford were managed by Dean Smith, where they only really perfected one way of playing, I don't think they would have been able to expose Barnsley in the same way, and perhaps they might have lost that kind of game. So I think there's real signs of progress for the Bees, and again, a good performance against Bristol City in midweek, albeit without quite getting the result they were hoping for.
Indeed. As always, Gab, appreciate you joining us.
Cheers, mate.
Gav Sutton there, owner of Football Lab. A couple of things, actually. Firstly, I met with a guy from Opta. I don't even know Opta. They're the ones who do all the stats. Yeah, I met with him yesterday before I went to the Brentford game. Really interesting meeting, and they do, again, a lot of the stats. He showed me certain stats, and it pretty much mirrors the table as it is, because, of course, if you're doing certain things right in a game, then ordinarily it will lead over the period of time. Law of averages, that you're going to have positive results, etc., etc. One of the biggest anomalies, though, was Stoke. They, according to Opta, the way in which the Opta stats go, they should be so much higher in the table.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I was thinking that yesterday, when we were speaking about whether or not Nathan Jones should get the boot, and it is a weird setup there, where actually if you watch a lot of Stoke's games, they should have taken much more from the game. There's no particularly obvious reason why they're not. So is it not just a case of if you stick with him, you probably are going to win eventually?
Maybe. I mean, the other bit that's hard to quantify with a lot of this stuff is the emotional element, the confidence, the belief, which you would guess now is absolutely drained. But this is where football is fine margins. Had things have gone slightly differently, there's no reason why we're not talking about Stoke as a playoff team right now. So it's fascinating.
That is an interesting one. Look, I just want to shift a little bit back to some of the athletics very quickly, and
very quickly.
Go on.
Thierry Henry was sat in front of me last night.
Oh, stop it, you!
Yeah, he was.
Really?
Anyway, go on. You want to talk about athletics? You do that.
Did you just get into his ear and just go?
I've been asked the question, why was he there? I guess he was there because it's local. He loves football.
Is his head?
Do you know
really
what? I'll tell you what it is, actually. One of the players at Bristol City was... no, it's nothing to do with the shape of his head, Patrick. One of the reasons was, of course, he was at Monaco, and Bristol City have signed a young player called Masingo, very good player from Monaco. So I think it would have had something to do with that.
Okay, excellent. Good stuff. Right, now, so from one absolute legend to another, Dina Asher-Smith. She's joined the list of Great Britain athletics greats. She won the 200 metres final in Doha last night. 22.88 seconds, a British record. Sorry, 21.88 seconds, I should say. British record. Fantastic, Dina. Well done. I just want to touch, actually, on something a little bit different, because it's still kicking off about the Alberto Salazar scandal. It is a scandal. And I think most of our listeners are going to be quite annoyed by Seb Coe's comments.
Let's talk about that shortly. 29 minutes to 8.
Love sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a spokesman's set, which was very straightforward and easy to use for an old git like myself, and saved over £300 on my car insurance.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit wedooh.com. We Do, the smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
Love sport.
I was just really focused on putting together a good race, and I dreamt of this, but now it's real now.
And you join a club of amazing women: Jessica Ennis-Hill, Christina Hurugu, Fatima Whitbread, so many women as a world champion, Dina. And to join that club, what does that mean?
It's going to make me emotional. Stop saying it.
Last Sport Breakfast, me Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. That was, of course, Dina Asher-Smith there.
She won the 200 metres gold medal last night at the World Athletics Championships in Doha. She's joined a pantheon of British greats. She set a British record, time of 21.88 seconds. Remarkable stuff. Her mum was in the crowd as well, crying. We all got a bit emotional, didn't we?
Yes, we
Her
did.
mum's been tweeting, saying how proud she is. She's worked so hard for this. And what a nice relief this is, right? So there's no substitute for just raw talent, okay? No matter how much testosterone you try and pump your athletes full of Alberto Salazar, there's no substitute for raw talent and a genuine human being as well. And that's what Dina Asher-Smith seems to be.
Well, do you know who this impacted in a big way? Who this penetrated? Our man, Kieran Wellington, who has something to say. He doesn't normally come into the studio this early, but this has impacted him, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, because this is, athletics history for our country. And, this is a girl from Kent who's kind of come from very humble backgrounds and was spotted, at a local athletics club, running club. And, she's worked so hard and obviously she's kind of building this amazing career, winning at the Europeans last year, stepping up, personal best, national record, world champion this year. It's all looking good for the Olympics, to be honest. I'm really excited.
Well, watching that yesterday, there's no one that can compete with her, surely. She was so far ahead of everybody. She was, of course, outstanding favourite going into this. You can't help but feel that, providing nothing horribly goes wrong, I'm going to touch wood, that she should. Can we put that kind of pressure on her just yet?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we have to. She's kind of like that Jess Ennis-Hill type character where she seems to take everything in her stride. She knows how good she is, but she stays grounded. And it's just great to have a sprint world champion, because there's something about the 100 metres and the 200 metres that everyone just gets excited about. It's kind of the pinnacle of athletics, I think. When everyone looks at it, that's what people want to watch.
Were you a sprint? I can imagine you were more of a shot putter.
No, I have the framed certificate at home from when I won my school's 100 metres race.
No way.
Yeah. I was quite a good runner, yeah.
Were you a good runner, or was it a really poor school?
No, well, yeah, it was all right. And I was 10.
Right. Okay.
But I did do.
Okay.
I'm a long distance runner though, aren't I? I did the marathon, 4 hours 36. Represent. I'll tell you who else was a long distance runner, although splits more opinion than me, which is saying something.
Yeah.
Athletics chief Seb Coe, who I'm going to put this out there. I think he can do one.
Ooh, what's he said?
Basically, the attendance at the Doha Games has been woeful, to the extent where, I think the only people there watching were actually staff.
Right.
And so we were talking about this, of course, and Gabby Logan, who is a fantastic presenter and a fantastic broadcaster, I must say, she was just being honest with people. You can't ignore the fact that it's an empty stadium. Like, it's not propaganda, you know. It's not Russian state broadcasting this, is it? Like, you can't ignore the fact that this is an empty stadium for the World Championships. She's just been speaking about it, and Seb Coe came out and went, "Oh, it's very easy to sit there and make all sorts of Gabby Logan type judgments over 3 or 4 days and clear off back to match of the day. But it's really important that we see the long-term development of our sport, etc., etc." Seb, mate, right? You know when it turned out that the Russians had been state-sponsored doping of athletes, and you kind of pretended that you didn't really know about all that, didn't you? Because the whole thing of "I never read the email," that was the whole saga. Never read the email, didn't really realise that this was going on. Okay, Seb, whatever, mate. And then the whole, thing about Alberto Salazar. Yeah, you've not really come down like a ton of bricks on him, have you? No, absolutely not. And now the fact that you've decided to have the World Athletics Championships in a kind of morally bankrupt hellhole somewhere in the desert is attended by absolutely nobody, and you're criticising Gabby Logan of the BBC for pointing out that nobody's there. Seb Coe has become one of the suits, hasn't he? He's become that corporate man, and I hate it.
Well, let's read out some of his quotes. He said, "It's very easy to sit there and make all sorts of Gabby Logan-type judgments over 3 or 4 days and clear off back to match of the day. But it's really important that we see the long-term development of our sport. The problem I've got with that is it's the way our sport is being portrayed by some of the people in that studio. Well, your sport's in tatters, mate.
Yeah.
You know, this Salazar business has dominated the back pages for the last 3 days. It shows no sign of letting up. You know, one of our best ever athletes could be, tarred with the same brush, the way it's going. And he's trying to dig out Gabby Logan for some broadcasting, some very good broadcasting.
So does this go back to, and we touched on it yesterday, as to, of course, if you're involved in a sport, you want to try and protect it. And obviously, certain people are going about it the wrong way, almost like, they're pulling the wool over their eyes.
But this is it. And when we spoke about, so let's just say, and again, this is a completely hypothetical example. Let's just say, Usain Bolt at the time when he was athletics, right, for a while. Let's just say he'd have failed the drug test, which he didn't do. But let's just say he did. And we say, well, would it have been exposed by the powers that be in athletics because he was so big for the sport? Would they have done it? We have to look at what Seb Coe's been doing here, just completely burying his head in the sand over poor attendances, not condemning Alberto Salazar, not really coming down a ton of bricks about the Russians. Well, yeah, it would have been covered up, wouldn't it? Yeah. It absolutely would have been covered up. And this is the problem. I hate to say it, but Seb Coe is the problem.
He sounded very petty in his comments. He added, "Can I just be a bit blunt about this? The athletes talking about externalities are probably not the ones who are going to be walking home with medals from here. Go figure." I mean, it's just shocking. He just sounds like a school playground type, shots at Gabby Logan. Look closer to home, mate. You've got some problems.
Exactly, and that's the fact is, and the problem is that the people who have been walking away with medals for so long have been cheating, haven't they? As this Alberto Salazar thing has proven.
Well, especially
he's not clamping down on that.
Especially in the sprint events. You only have to look at the quickest times in the men's 100 metres outside of Usain Bolt. Almost all of them, I think. Pretty much all of them. Christian Coleman got...
I'll get the stats on that one.
Yeah, Christian Coleman has basically avoided a ban because of a legal loophole. But everyone else, Tyson Gage, Justin Gatlin, just to name a couple, they've all had drug bans and been found guilty of taking banned substances.
So where does it leave athletics, though? What's the next... Because
I'm just really happy. This is a great story, right? This is... Hopefully, Dina Asher-Smith can... produce a positive narrative now, especially in this country. This is history, as I said before. She is always going to be the first ever British female sprint world champion. That is a piece of history no one will be able to take away from her. And it's just, there's so much to like about Dina Asher-Smith, and she's just at the start of her career, really. She could go to Tokyo and win at Tokyo, and she could become a double Olympic champion in LA. I'm pretty sure of that. She's got that kind of trajectory to her career that she could keep going for the next 5 years at the top level.
And look, she seems so genuine, doesn't she? And her mum's there in the crowd, kind of just, dropping a few tears, and rightly so as well, because there can be no better thing than to see that your daughter has come out and overcome all sorts of adversity. She's got her head down. She's run 6 races in just a few days. She's still got a relay event to do, and she's absolutely blown the field away.
Now,
fantastic.
Rich, you were saying that, it was a relative mile that she won by, and, would anyone else kind of pose a threat to her come Tokyo? Well, there were some notable exceptions from the field. Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price, who won the 100 metres, opted not to run in the 200, obviously to do with the conditions in Doha, which is kind of ridiculous. Daphne Shippers, who's won European and world medals, Marie-Josie Tarlou and Blessing Okabare fell to a mixture of injuries and disqualification. So there were some big names missing, and she'll have more of a challenge in Tokyo. But it's the fact that this time, 21.88 seconds, is a national record and would have been good enough for gold at 13 of the 17 World Championships.
Yeah, decent.
She is world class.
And there's more improvement to come, you would think?
Absolutely. I mean, she's kind of... This is a personal best, a national record, as I say, so she's slowly chipping away at her best times, and, she's going to want to peak. I'm sure her coach has been kind of relentless with peaking at the right time. She seems to have peaked at the right time for the Worlds, coming back a year on, a year fitter, a year stronger. Now she's got that gold medal behind her. She'll want more success, I'm sure of it.
I suppose this is the thing, we never know when someone will peak. Obviously we mentioned that Patrick won his races when he was 10 years old, and downhill since then.
Yeah, rolling downhill. But Britain's Katarina Johnson-Thompson, which is a fantastic name, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate the surname Johnson-Thompson? I've got a mate who's got a surname Smith-Jones.
Nice.
So it's just combined the two most common. But anyway, Britain's Katarina Johnson-Thompson saved her heptathlon gold medal dream with a huge shot put yesterday, just when it appeared that her chances of becoming world champion were ebbing away. KJT, as she's now known, KJT, she threw a lifetime best 13.86 metres for the final attempt. And I think this is it, isn't it? When you have a look at top athletes, top sports stars in general, Ben Stokes, prime example, when nothing other than your very, very best will do, it's amazing how often they put in a lifetime best performance. Like Ben Stokes at both the Cricket World Cup and in the Ashes. Look, you've seen Dina Asher-Smith, of course, and Katarina Johnson-Thompson as well. And the list goes on. The list goes on.
It does indeed. 16 minutes to 8.
One thing I've learned is never judge a book by its movie. I'm joking, I never read.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio. If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
This is Love Sport.
That's Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Of course, a lot going on in the world of sport, but arguably the biggest story today was in the Champions League last night, where Liverpool 3-0 up, threw the lead away, but did go on to win the game 4-3. And who better to go through that game with us than Liverpool legend, Mr. Chris Kirkland. Morning, Kirky.
Morning, you okay? You're less than, not a legend, you know that.
Mate, I'm throwing it in. Hey, look, you played for England, mate. You played for England. Hey, look, keen to get your thoughts on the game last night. So, an interesting one for Liverpool. I don't see many teams come back from 3-0 down against Liverpool, so huge credit to Salzburg. Is there a couple of worrying signs for Liverpool, the fact that they did give away a 3-goal lead?
No, definitely not. No, listen, they've been solid. Van Dijk's obviously made a huge difference to them since he's been there. Still got, Adrian's done superb, but still got Alisson to come back. But listen, you know what happens in football. These games can happen. These things can happen. Look at the night before. We would have said Spurs would have got beat 7-2 after being 1-0 up. It's just that's why we love football. That's what drives you mad when you play it sometimes, because these things do happen. But there's one thing with Liverpool that there's not many games they're not going to score in, and defensively I think they've been really, really strong, particularly the last 12 months. Last night was just one of them games. 3-0 up, you've played yourself for it. Sometimes it becomes a little bit too easy. You become a little bit complacent. The goals they conceded were sloppy goals. We gave the ball away for 2 of them. But you always know that, as Jurgen said, you're going to get. He knew at 3-3 would still get another chance, and he was confident we'd win the game. So we move on to a tough game now against Leicester on Saturday.
Yeah, indeed. Just on Jurgen Klopp, he looked pretty relaxed throughout. I mean, even when Salzburg, I think, got their second, their third, he still looked pretty relaxed. I don't know whether that was him putting on a front, because Salzburg were really good, to be fair to him.
They were, and listen, give them credit. To come back from 3-0 down when it looked like it could, when you're 3-0 after, what was it, 35 minutes, you're thinking this could be 6, 7, 8-0. We've all played in games like that, and you give them huge credit to come back, particularly at Anfield. I don't think that's ever been, it's not been done in a long, long time at Anfield, 3-0 down. But yeah, Jurgen, as you said, I'm lucky enough to be in and around it, and he knows what he's got. He knows the firepower he's got. He knows what his team's like. He's been in football long enough. He knows these things can happen. He'll be frustrated, though. There's no doubt about that. He'll tell them in the dressing room and behind closed doors that 3-0 up, you should never, ever let a team get back in the game. But as I said, he knows the firepower he's got, and he was always confident of getting more chances.
Just touching on the group, it's actually looking... I mean, we knew it would be quite a tough group with Napoli there as well, but now seeing Salzburg and Genk got a good result against Napoli yesterday, it's actually quite a difficult group, to be fair.
It is. Well, they say 10 points, don't they? If you get 10 points, you more or less qualify from the group. So, there's 2 more games at Anfield, so you'd expect them to get maximum points from them. So they're going to have to go away and get something from an away game, which the way Liverpool play when they do go away, sometimes they're playing a counter, they're devastating. So you would expect Liverpool to qualify definitely. And then it's, as you say, it's going to be tough. I'd still side with Napoli. I think they're defensively they're outstanding, and they're a very good team. So I'd be surprised if it's not Liverpool and Napoli.
Do you think that Virgil van Dijk has just been a victim of his own kind of majesty, really? Because he's been basically perfect, hasn't he, for however long? And the fact is, he's not playing badly at all. People are going, "Oh, he's not the same as he was last season." Is it just because he's set himself at such a high bar, or do you think that there has been maybe a little bit of a slip?
No, definitely not. This is the beauty of football, and this is if something goes wrong. Which, listen, let's remember there's still one last night, but there's always fingers pointed and stuff like that. But if you've been to Anfield, if you've watched Virgil, he's an absolute rock. He's made the defence, so much better. I think we've got the best defence in the league and in Europe, possibly, with the fullbacks. The fullbacks are unbelievable. We missed Matip last night, who has been absolutely superb. Free transfer, he's been magnificent. Him and Virgil have been. That might have had something to do with it last night, because Joe Gomez is a brilliant and long-term prospect without a shadow of a doubt at centre-back for Liverpool. But Joel Matip and Virgil have been absolutely superb. So that might have had possibly something to do with it, playing with a new partner, because he has been used to Matip. So maybe that had something to do with it. Can you confirm what Troy Deeney said, which is that he even smells nice? Van Dijk? Yes, Virgil, big Virg. Yes, I can do. Yes, I can confirm that, yeah. And even if he didn't smell nice, he wouldn't tell him, would you?
I'm intrigued as to what aftershave he's wearing. So if you've texted it through to me, let me know.
Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Touching on the weekend, you mentioned big game for Liverpool. I mean, look, it's been the perfect start so far. And, of course, with your area of expertise, I want to ask you about Adrian. He had one moment last night where he looked to play out and got away with that. But, I mean, huge credit to him. 7 games, 7 wins. That was obviously a little bit of a concern when Alisson went down. The thought that actually you're bringing in a goalkeeper who doesn't necessarily know the Liverpool way, hasn't, you'd argue, isn't as good with his feet as Alisson. No pre-season. Well, it's an incredible story, isn't it? Because it was, you're right, no pre-season. He was obviously Andy Lonergan as well at the time. I mean, the fact that Liverpool have gone, in fact, there's a couple of questions here. One being in that Liverpool obviously haven't recruited that number 2. Danny Ward moved on to Leicester, it would have been, a year or so ago, and they haven't really got that number 2. Of course, they didn't have a problem last season with Alisson being fit throughout the entire season, but it feels to me like they've slightly got away with it, which is huge credit to Adrian. He's come in and, on the whole, done really, really well.
He has. He's done exceptionally well. As you said, you've mentioned everything there. And that's tough going into any game. But when you're in the Premier League and you're at a club, that's just won the Champions League and, fancied to win the title, that's huge pressure. And he's done brilliant. I've been down to the training ground a couple of times and watched them train, and he's settled in so well. Not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, which helps. His family's settled already. He's got 2 young kids. So everything like that goes towards that as well, because you know yourself, if things are not right off the pitch, it's tough, and especially at a big club like Liverpool. But with the number 2, obviously Simon left. They've got huge hopes for Kevin Kelleher, who was injured pre-season. Grabara was injured pre-season. Alisson was injured, obviously, first game of the season. So they had a big problem. They took Andy Lonergan in. Lonners, who's been brilliant as well. He's been a breath of fresh air there. They're delighted with him. Kelleher's back fit now, obviously. But yeah, Alisson's not that far away, but Adrian deserves huge credit. He's been superb. It's as though you've not missed Alisson, which is a daft thing to say with him getting goalkeeper of the year last year. But there's no doubt about it, when Alisson's fit, he'll be back in. He's with the season he had last year. It was a nasty injury, with his calf. They took the time with him, but by all means, he's going to be back after the international break. So that, again, is a huge boost for Liverpool. The amount of clean sheets he kept last year, but Adrian has done superb and deserves a lot of credit. And so do the coaching staff, the goalie coaches, and for bringing him in, John Achterberg, and they've worked with him and they've got him up to speed really quick, because you know what it's like, if you miss pre-season, you're behind straight away. So he's hit the ground running, so it's credit to everyone.
Yeah, and I was in a taxi this morning, actually. My cabbie was a Liverpool fan, and he was saying that he's really pleased. He's especially pleased because he says he feels like City have had to buy their success, and they have obviously forked out a huge amount of money. And look, don't get me wrong, Liverpool obviously do dabble in the transfer market, and Virgil van Dijk cost a pretty penny. But you just mentioned there about Matip getting him on a free. Is there that sense about Liverpool, which is that you've kind of done things the right way, that your success has come through more kind of potentially a bit of grit and determination, and that by some senses you're more of a kind of people's club, I suppose, than City, who have clearly spent, just a ridiculous amount of money to compile that squad?
Listen, if somebody says to you, "He's money, go and spend it on players," and it's hard to turn it down, isn't it, for City? Speaking from Liverpool, though, I mean, the 2 big areas that we needed to improve, one was the goalkeeper situation and the centre-back situation when Carra retired. We never really replaced that, and obviously Sami Hyypiä going back towards that. So, nearly 140 million on Alisson and Van Dijk. So, I mean, that's huge money, but what would you pay for them now?
Yeah.
But the feel-good, you're right, I mean, anyone that gets a chance that's not a Liverpool fan, I know it's daft saying it sometimes, but to go to Liverpool and European nights, it's just completely different to going anywhere else. It's the best atmosphere that you could possibly go to. I was lucky enough to be at the Barcelona game last year, and that was just the most incredible match I've ever been involved with or ever been to. And the atmosphere, and there's just a feeling. Jurgen's just got the club. He's just got everyone together. I don't know if you've ever met him, but it doesn't matter who you are at the training ground. The people putting the bins out, the kitchen people. He's just the same with every person in that building. He's so friendly with everyone. He wants to know if everyone's okay. Anybody he meets, he gives the same attention to, the same detail. He's just a remarkable man, and he's changed the club, back to the feel-good factor, because we went through a few years where there was a bit of uncertainty, and a few grumbles here and there, but he's just totally transformed the club, and he's got everyone back together. And with the fans we've got, how powerful they are, particularly at Anfield, things are looking good, but it's going to be extremely tough. And we keep mentioning, Saturday, Brendan coming back to Liverpool, Leicester playing extremely well. He's a top manager, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game Saturday.
It will do. And just lastly, very quickly, before we go to the news, what are you up to now? Because I know you were involved in the Liverpool ladies, but I'm right in thinking that you've moved into a different department within the club?
Well, I'm doing bits and bobs now, so I do a lot for Liverpool TV, do the 18s to 23s in the first team, and I've got my own goalkeeper academy. Just deciding, going forward now what to do. I want to get back in club football eventually, but happy doing what I'm doing now. I can watch my daughter play as well. She's a goalkeeper, so she plays on Saturday morning, so it's nice being able to go and watch her and take her training and stuff. So
Future England number one, right?
She's what, sorry?
Future England number one.
Yeah, or Scotland. Remember the White Scottish?
Okay.
All right.
No, I have to say that, but there's no chance you will. It was definitely.
Great stuff. Kirky, love having you on. Cheers for coming on.
Yeah, top man, take care.
That's Chris Kirkton, former Liverpool and England goalkeeper, of course, giving us his thoughts on Liverpool last night, beating Red Bull Salzburg 4-3. They did let a 3-goal lead slip, but they were victorious in the end. It's always great getting Kirky on, isn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. What a guy. What a mighty fine man he is, yeah.
Indeed, he is. The time is 3 minutes to 8.
This is Love Sport. If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit wedooh.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
All right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Last Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you until 10 a.m. As always, you can get in touch on WhatsApp, 0208 70 20 558, or you can get in touch on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We do enjoy your messages at Love Sport Radio if you want to do that. We are on YouTube these days as well. Simply type in Love Sport Radio on YouTube and you will see both myself and Patrick. We are here, of course, until 10. You'll see us live. There's lots coming up in the next hour. We're going to be speaking to James Rowe, Dutch football expert, getting his thought on AZ Alkmaar. Can they pile on the pressure on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Of course, they take on Manchester United this evening. We'll also be speaking to former Chelsea defender Frank Sinclair. Chelsea did beat Lille 2-1 last night. A tough game. Be interesting to get his thoughts. We'll also be speaking to Ali Stokes, journalist for the Rugby Mag. Get his latest on England and their hopes for the coming games. Do stay tuned. We do appreciate your company. It's 8 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 8, Downing Street says today marks the start of 10 days of intensive discussions about Boris Johnson's new Brexit plan. He'll meet his cabinet this morning to discuss ways of winning support from EU leaders. The European Commission says there are still some problems with his proposals, which include replacing the controversial backstop with some customs checks in Northern Ireland. But DUP leader Arlene Foster has welcomed the proposals.
I hope people look at this as a sensible way forward that we think it is. I hope they engage in a sensible
go away, and I hope that we find a way forward together, because what we've been engaged in is trying to find a way forward that works for the whole of the United Kingdom, not least those of us who live here in Northern Ireland.
Jennifer Akuri says she had every right to be on trade missions alongside Boris Johnson when he was London Mayor. He's accused of giving the American businesswoman preferential treatment. Scotland is expected to become the first part of the UK to ban smacking later. Parents are currently allowed to use reasonable force to discipline their children, but MSPs will decide whether to completely outlaw physical punishment. Judges will rule this morning on whether a critically ill 5-year-old's parents can take her to Italy for specialist treatment. Tafida Rakib's doctors believe she has no chance of recovery, but her uncle Jurul Islam says they'll never give up fighting.
She has a chance of getting better, and we're not expecting a miracle cure, and we're not saying that she'll get back 100%, but we're happy to accept her how she is.
Dina Asher-Smith says winning gold at the Athletics World Championships is something she'll never forget. She became the first British woman to claim a global sprint title, setting a new national record in the 200 metres. And Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp insists he always had faith his side would survive a scare to win in the Champions League last night. FC Salzburg fought back from 3-0 down before the holders eventually triumphed 4-3. Chelsea beat Lille 2-1. That's the latest. I'm Anna Bates.
This is Love Sport.
Smooth, rich, Costa's premium filter coffee. Just £1.
You what? Hang on, I think there's a typo in here. It says £1. For a coffee? Oh, okay.
Perfection comes at a price, a surprisingly low one. Enjoy Costa's premium filter coffee, just £1.
Primo size only in participating stores until the 31st of October, subject to availability. See costa.co.uk/terms for full T's and C's.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Good morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you all the way until 10 a.m. There's plenty going on today, as ever, and today's big story, Liverpool win 4-3 in the Champions League, 3-0 up. They actually let that lead slip, but they were victorious against Red Bull Salzburg. Chelsea also victorious away at Lille, and arguably the biggest story of the day, Dina Asher-Smith victorious in the 200 metres at the World Championships. There's plenty more going on as well, which we're going to get stuck into over the next hour, including lots of rugby. Of course, the England football team will be announced as well today at some point, which we'll be touching on, no doubt. Patrick, you well?
Oh, very well, yes. In fact, listeners just joining us should be, well, debatably pleased. Potentially some of them quite disgusted, actually, that I'm here, because obviously my tube set on fire this morning. No Londoners moved. Even when the fire brigade kind of descended upon the station there at Kentish Town, and I had to get an Uber in.
We're sceptical as a collective, so unless we can visually see what's going on, yes, we can smell the smoke.
Smell it.
Yes, but like as the saying goes, there's no smoke without fire. That kind of goes against the point I'm trying to make.
Right. It was the thing was as well. It was the fact that, you know, when the tube drivers normally kind of give it the whole, oh, sorry about this, ladies and gents, we're just going to be held here for a few moments. Everything's fine. This guy's fine. Sorry, ladies and gents. There's a fire. And
Left it at that.
Yep. Right? And just everyone's looking at each other. And I was like, we're all gonna get off then. We're gonna leg it. No one's legging it. I've got the bag over the shoulder. I'm out the door. I'm running up the escalator.
So true story. As you know, recently I was in Las Vegas, of course, doing some reporting on the Tyson Fury fight.
Yeah.
Anyway,
interesting expenses form you filled out, by the way, mate.
Yeah, a couple of the guys that came and joined me to do that report, they actually were on a plane that was obviously flying direct to Vegas, had to stop in Chicago because there was a fire on the flight. But the problem was that ordinarily people are quite calm, like, don't worry, we're going to be touching down in Chicago. apparently the staff went mental. Like they thought that was it. When they've landed, there's then fire engines pulled up, the fire marshals running on, doing what they do. Like it's just carnage.
I
you
love
have people screaming.
I
It's
love
horrible.
the idea of one of the, like the air hostesses are supposed to remain calm at all times. One of them's got a stiletto off, just beating up the bloke out of the fire exit so she can get off first. Just brilliant.
It was so. Anyway,
Ladies and gentlemen, we're all gonna die.
That's pretty much what happened. Eddie Jones has picked his 23 that will face Argentina with just one change from the starting 15 that took to the field against Tonga. Eddie Jones said it was a difficult selection.
Well, I say it every week. It's the most difficult selection, but we had 31 players competing hard for places. We had an outstanding training run yesterday. We've got 8 disappointed players, but they understand they have a massive role to play to support the team. And conversely, the guys who have been selected need to support those guys. And it's a credit to our strength and conditioning staff and our medical staff what great condition we're in to be. We're 6 games into a World Cup preparation, 4 warm-up games and 2 World Cup games, and we've got 31 players to select from.
Of course, Argentina are the biggest test for England in this World Cup so far, and Eddie Jones knows they can't take the match on Saturday lightly.
Interesting team. Strong team. We know that Argentina are at their best at World Cups. They have, I think Creevy spoke of a number of things this week, one of which was how tight they are as a team. And they're a pretty good team if they can get Creevy to come off the bench. So the standoff we know pretty well. Unfortunately, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. But he's been a good performer for Cast for a number of years. He's very solid in terms of his goal kicking, and we'll know that he'll bring something different to the game. So we respect them very greatly.
I just want to point out something that Gary Lineker said yesterday that's caused a lot of controversy online. That was about the haka. Because New Zealand played yesterday, and New Zealand do the haka before each game, and that's the thing that they do, obviously. And I know in the past I've been a little bit critical of it because it is an overt way of intimidating your opponent. And it's all very well and good that, there's a lot of history attached to that, clearly. I mean, that is the first thing that a lot of people think about when they think about New Zealand, isn't it? But I have always thought it a bit weird that a rugby team, and I know a lot of the kind of Pacific Island teams do it as well, where you are essentially allowed a moment before a match where you can just seriously intimidate your opponents. I do find that a little bit odd, but it is a cultural thing, and I think I'm bang in favour of it. I think rugby would be the poorer without it. Gary Lineker's come out, right on Gary Lineker, Mr. EU, the kind of guy that's supposed to be accepting of all kind of cultures and creeds. He's gone just a bit bored by it now. How would a dance in any way intimidate a sportsman? Their rugby ability is another matter entirely, but haka, nah. And he's actually deleted a tweet that he originally posted, which was pretty offensive about it. And Dan Wootton, who's chief executive at The Sun, is a good friend of mine as well, has said, it's just rightly come out and gone, by mocking the All Blacks haka as something to, quote, laugh at, Gary Lineker has shown great cultural insensitivity and total ignorance to a multicultural society. As a dual British/Kiwi citizen born in New Zealand, I'm acutely aware of the importance of the traditional war dance to Maori culture. And it's a bizarre one, this, from Gary Lineker, to be honest with you. And as Dan Wootton rightly says, for Gary to slag it off so brutally to gain some cheap Twitter likes shows he is a man who likes to preach tolerance without being prepared to show it.
Interesting. Let us know what you think. 0208 70 20 558.
Just some interesting things, though, because I thought, what would the British one be? Like Morris dancers. Bring the Morris dancers out. That would be good fun, wouldn't it? That'd really
intimidate.
That'd intimidate people. But I've thought as well, if we really wanted to get under the Argentinian skin, we could just, I don't know, come out with I don't know, a big flag of the Falkland Islands.
Or just come out with some chips with curry sauce.
Yeah?
I don't know, that's quite English.
That is
I
quite
guess curry
English.
sauce actually really isn't
No, because
English.
Britain's national dish for a while was chicken tikka masala.
Oh, well, there you go.
Which was actually invented in Scotland, I believe. So, there we are. Other Scots do keep trying to deep fry it.
Well, look, if they do, they like to do that. I've got a question for you.
Okay.
If you were a rugby player, which I think you might have been for a period of time.
Absolutely never, but yeah, go on.
Fine. Okay, if you were, would you be a flashy winger, a workhorse of a lock, a prop who doesn't take a backward step, or a fly half who directs a team? I've got a quiz for you that's going to decide what type of rugby player you would be.
Okay, for what it's worth, I've always thought I'd make a really good hooker.
Okay, so the first question. What are you listening to on the way to a match? Old school rock, 90s hip-hop, grime, indie, mostly Oasis, motivational quotes on the Lorna Loop. I know what I'm listening to, but I don't think it's the same for you.
I think I'd go for a bit of Oasis.
Okay, boom. Fine. Next one. What do you look for in a tour roommate? Someone who's as cool as you and won't ruin your image. Someone sensible, lights out 10 a.m. That's me, 10 p.m. A Bantosaurus Rex. Yeah. Anyone who doesn't complain about the smells you leave in the bathroom. Oh. Someone sensible enough to keep your place tidy, but not boring.
Yeah, that last one.
Okay. What's your crucial pre-match activity? Visualization, that is me. Check, by the way, we'd be completely different positions. I'm gathering this already. Visualization, check your hair's on point. That's not you. Entertain the troops, screaming in your teammate's face. Okay, I've got a feeling where this is going. Last minute stretches to get your body ready for the fight.
Well, there's a couple there that I do. It's a mixture of entertainment and screaming, but we'll go with screaming.
Go with screaming, yeah, I thought that might make sense. What's your main aim on the pitch? Cover 50 metres to score a solo try. Score as many points as you can. All your teammates around. Knock as many people over as possible. Put your body on the line for the team.
Order my teammates around.
Your teammates, that sounds about right. How do you celebrate a win? A couple of drinks to bond with the team.
Oh.
Nudity isn't there. Celebration? What celebration? Get a good night's sleep to be ready for training the next day.
No.
That is me. Book the city's fanciest restaurant to make sure you post it on Instagram.
Oh, no.
Drinks with the lads.
Yeah.
Down a bottle of aftershave just for lols.
Drinks with the lads.
Drinks for the lads. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, do you want to know what you are?
Go on.
I'll tell you what the description is, and I'll tell you what. Let's be honest, you're a bit gobby. You like to play the class clown and keep all your teammates entertained. They pretend to hate it, but love you really. You're a scrum half.
Hey, there we go. I'll take that.
There you go. Right, okay, back to a little bit of football, I think.
Yeah, well, look, it was a good night in the Champions League for the English sides. Liverpool beating Salzburg 4-3. They threw away a 3-goal lead initially, and it was eerily reminiscent, wasn't it, of the demolition job that actually Liverpool did on Barcelona. But in the end, they came good. And Chelsea as well. Can't speak highly enough of this Chelsea side, beating Lille 2-1 away.
The biggest problem for me with Liverpool last night, they weren't in a defending mood.
Salzburg changed the system, which is actually didn't really cause us that many problems in possession. The only problem was our mood. So it was like a mix of a couple of players wanted to control the game, a couple of players were still really lively, but we were not in that defending mood anymore. Like second balls were not that good. And because of the system change then, when we lost the ball, then constantly they had one free player in between the lines. So that caused us problems, obviously.
You do wonder with Liverpool, and this is a question I do have, of course, the Premier League means so much to them. They've won the European Cup last, and of course they want to have another good run. If they can win it again, then fantastic. But the Premier League does mean so much to them. Whether the focus is ever so slightly more on the Premier League this season than the Champions League?
Ooh, yes, possibly. I think, well, I don't know this for a fact, but I would have thought if you'd survey most Liverpool fans, they'd probably rather they won the league this year than the Champions League. Mm-hmm. I think it's been far too long since Merseyside's had a Premier League title to celebrate, and it does feel now like they're clawing their way back onto their perch if they're not already sat on top of it, to be fair. So yeah, I think so. But I also think as well, they've seen, for example, the demolition job that Bayern did over Spurs. They've seen that City are capable of racking up 8 goals, in a game. And I think that last night they smelt blood. When it got to 3-0, I think they were there thinking we could maybe get a cricket score on the board here, and actually that cost them a little bit.
It did. We just did the quiz for you, of course, to find out what rugby player you were. Do you want to know what rugby player I was?
What?
Okay, here we go.
Dull, I imagine, boring. Bit of a loner. Likes to think that he's cracked it.
Have you read this already? No. Yeah. You're smart, sharp, crafty, and all the other words that mean you're the brains of this whole operation. Just like England captain Owen Farrell. I'm a fly half.
Right.
There you go. 14 minutes past 8.
Don't believe everything you read online.
I know my IQ is fantastic. I took a test and the results came back negative.
Love sports.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
Love sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me originally. Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Of course, we spoke plenty of Champions League, but there is also the small matter of the Europa League this evening. And of course, AZ Alkmaar are going to be playing against Manchester United this evening. And delighted to say we have James Rowe, Dutch football expert, on the line to go through it with us. We're going to be talking to him very, very shortly on this because, of course, the big news in the papers is in regards to the pitch. It's not meant to be particularly good.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? When you get to any kind of decent level of football, you expect not to be playing on the equivalent of a cow field in Slough. But this is essentially that. AZ Alkmaar's pitch, according to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is one of the worst artificial pitches he's ever seen. In fact, it's had a worse plastic job done on it than Katie Price, and that is really saying something.
Was that a direct quote from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
Not in as many words,
really.
Kind of reading between the lines there.
Yes, just summing it up nicely.
Yeah, it got a worse plastic covering than Anne Robinson.
Right, James Rowe, Dutch football expert, is on the line. Morning, James.
Good morning, fellas. How are you both?
Yeah, we're very well, thanks. We're very well. We're saying the big story about AZ Alkmaar, of course, has come out that the pitch isn't particularly good. Is that fair?
Well, first off, what I wanted to state was you mustn't forget that AZ Alkmaar are playing 42 miles away from their home tonight. And since their stadium collapse, they've been playing at the home of ADO Den Haag in The Hague since August. And so it's they've been playing on that pitch for quite some time. They're also in very good form. They've won their last 4 Eredivisie games, only 1 point behind Ajax, and also obtained a good away win against Feyenoord and a draw in Belgrade too against Partizan. I look at it from a bit of a different perspective. I think that Solskjaer is a little bit wary of AZ and is using the pitch already, perhaps, to kind of not get his excuses in early, but to kind of say, the pitch, for example, when the ball's not even been kicked yet, for example.
It's an interesting one because, as you mentioned, it was high winds, wasn't it? That the roof came down on the stadium, so they would have had a choice of to which stadium to play in, I assume. Has this been the stadium of choice?
Well, when the unexpected event happened, they were speaking about playing their matches in Enschede, east of the Netherlands, where it's a trend to play. But they plumped for ADO Den Haag, which is only The Hague, which is only 42 miles from Alkmaar, because they wanted as well. They were also in the process of qualifying for the Europa League, and they wanted to make it accessible for their supporters. And even in the qualifying rounds, they had very good attendances, and even the backrooms, the board and the club were so pleased that the fans would go out of their way to travel 42 miles further than what they normally do to support and watch their team.
So look, just maybe give us a little bit of dose of realism, because I'm only going off what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said. I was kind of having a bit of a laugh about the state of the pitch before. I don't know it inside out whatsoever. Is it that bad, or is it just something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's throwing out there, like you seem to be alluding to, as some kind of early excuse for why this United team is actually just bang average?
Yeah, no, as I say, in my opinion, it's just something he's throwing out there. You've got to remember that ADO Den Haag also play on this pitch. As well, you've also got to look at the quality of this AZ team that they're facing. They've won their last 4 Eredivisie games, have some very good players in Calvin Stengs or Souma Idrissi, who's scored 6 goals so far this season, and Joan Koopmeiners in the midfield. They've got some very talented players, and it was not surprising for them to get a draw in Belgrade in their previous game. But you also have to remember they came through the qualifying rounds and dispatched of Antwerp in the final qualifying round to get through to the group phase. So this is an AZ Alkmaar team not to be underestimated, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Is this the Alkmaar side? How are they going to just approach this game, do you think? Do you think that they're looking at Manchester United now and thinking that they're there for the taking?
Well, if I can quote what the midfielder Tone Koopman has said in the pre-match press conference, where he said, as a squad and as a team, they view this game as a good marker as to where they are. And as I say, they're in good form, and they're very excited about the challenge. They're excited to be back in the group phase again. They want to do well in Europe, and it's a very close-knit group as well. This is a team that's very much growing. And AZ is also a club that invested heavily in youth in recent years, and they really are seeing that bear fruit. They really are, and they took a deliberate decision to renovate the youth training complex and to really make sure the facilities are the best for the young players they have, and attracting young players from the region of Alkmaar and Zandstreek, and it's really bearing fruit now.
Now Ajax, in just shifting over a little bit, Ajax beat Valencia 3-0 last night in the Champions League at the Mestalla as well. How good are this Ajax team at the minute? We know, of course, that they lost a couple of big players over the summer.
Well, it's, to quote Erik ten Hag in his post-match press conference, this is a very special result because, as he said afterwards, not many teams will come to Mestalla and win in the way they did. And he views it as well as they're taking yet another step in order to improve. Dutch media are immediately alluding to how far can this go, what can they achieve. And Ten Hag was just saying about, this is it's not a given that they will equal the success from last season, and they want to remain sharp and they want to remain focused. But it's a very, very impressive result to win 3-0 away in the Mestalla.
Yeah, we know as well that Edwin van der Sar, big Edwin, Manchester United legend and obviously a Dutch legend as well, is constantly linked with a move of some kind of director of football role, one of those titles anyway, at Old Trafford and a few other clubs as well. Can you just explain the role that he's had there as well, and kind of how important he is?
Well, he's become somewhat of a figurehead. I mean, he's always been very, very intelligent, not just as a footballer, but also as a person. And he's found himself in a position working together with Mark Overmars to really streamline the club and make sure that what they want to achieve, which is difficult for some clubs, has become reality. In the fact that they're making sure that their young players have a pathway to the first team, making sure that the facilities they have are the best available, and also making sure that the club has made tremendous strides in recent years. It really has, but it also reflects the city, which is something quite unique, because when you go to different countries, for example, and the commercialism in football now, you don't really feel the unique charm of a specific city reflecting in a club. And in case of Ajax being the only club in Amsterdam, but yet the biggest club in the country, Van der Sar has been able to arrange in terms of the facilities, in terms of streamlining at board level player contracts and who they target to sign in a very, very diligent way.
Great stuff. Before you go, as always, a little prediction.
This evening, I will go for a 1-1 draw.
Okay, interesting. Cheers, James. Much appreciated. James Rowe there, Dutch football expert, giving us his thoughts on the game tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And Steve McLaren's been on, actually.
Okay.
Obviously, former manager of FC20, and he just had a little bit to say on this. He said, "Yes, it's going to be a very good game. Super funky party time, you guys. And it's great to be in the Netherlands."
Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, great chat.
Right, I want to talk about Tom Lawrence. Tom Lawrence is included in the Wales squad. Of course, he has been involved in the controversy, the
drink driving controversy.
Alleged drink. So is this one of these where it's a case of innocent until proven guilty? Because he obviously played last night for Derby. He is involved in the Wales squad, the upcoming games that they have, which a few people are raising their eyebrows.
So put it this way. So when I was working as I won't name the guy, when I was working as a local journalist up in the Lake District, which is not exactly as high profile a job as playing international football, clearly, no matter how you dress it up. And we had a reporter there who got caught drink driving. We went to his court case and we reported on his court case, and he lost his job because he obviously couldn't drive around the countryside to do that. Now, if you are an international footballer, you can be embroiled in a team bonding session that ends with one of you face down a urinal, chundering out of your nose while people chant things like he's only had 3 pints of Peroni. You can then drive home, have the club captain in the back, crash alongside your teammate, potentially end your club captain's career, and then you start the next game. Bizarre.
But again, it's still alleged, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, it is
But this is it. This is what I'm saying. Is it a case of then when he's found, if he's found guilty of this, then does something change?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it's important to say because Derby have released a statement on their own player that has been very scathing. Hence why we're talking about it so freely, of course. Which is that they're saying that they obviously don't condemn this drinking side of things, and certainly not the driving side after the drinking side. Nobody does that. So it's a bizarre move for this, and maybe points out a little bit of weakness from Philippe Cocu, who, if anyone's seen him recently, he looks homeless.
Dishevelled is the word I would use.
He does. He does. I know he's got his winter coat on, hasn't he?
Winter beard.
Yeah, it's a big beard. Anyway, so for me, this indicates a little bit of weakness because the idea that you would have a couple of players that would do that, and then that you bear in mind Derby were weighing up whether or not there's been a breach of contract here from these players. I just wonder whether or not they know there has been a breach of contract. They know that at some point they might have to dismiss these two, but they want to keep playing them to maybe keep their value high, and therefore they can get rid of them.
Tom Lawrence, I would assume, has got a market value of circa 5 million.
Right.
So is this where the moral compass then comes in?
What's that?
What's a moral compass?
Yeah. I've heard this phrase a lot, and no one's ever explained it. What is a moral compass?
It's something you can buy on Amazon. Look it up on Amazon. It costs a hell of a lot. But is this a good example where actually he has got because you know what happened? Let's say they release him and he gets done for drink driving, and I don't know what the penalty will be, whether it would then be, if he is found guilty, whether it's jail time or whether it's simply an extended ban, maybe community service or whatever. But then, of course, if Derby were to release him, do you think he would remain unattached for long? 25 years old, in the prime of his career, Welsh national team.
I don't think. Well, no, of course he wouldn't. I mean, look at the.
So they're not going to. So this is what goes back to the moral compass. He has got such a valuation to that club, rightly or wrongly, from a business perspective. Derby see him as a valuable asset.
Yeah. Also, I don't know this. I wonder whether or not the lawyers have been on and said, look, if you drop them and you boot them out of your club before, then actually that is kind of, that's an insinuation of guilt, isn't it? And might damage their reputations. I don't know. It's a murky world, isn't it? But look, they might just be trying to wring every little ounce of value out of him before they dismiss him. But look, this indicates a worrying culture at Derby from top to bottom. The fact that the club would lay on a Tuesday night out in Derby, which I'll be honest with you, mate, wild horses couldn't drag me to a night out in Derby, let alone on a Tuesday night. There's nothing that you could tempt me with. It's the type of place that it seems to me like every nightclub there plays Disney songs with shocking degrees of regularity. It just doesn't look like my kind of bag, that really. But anyway, they were there. They laid on cars, so it's basically telling the players, you go and get boozed up, lads. Don't worry about that. You've got Tom Huddleston, who's replacing the club captain who's just been injured after getting in the back of one of your boozed up players' cars. The club captain's filming one of you being sick into a urinal because he's obviously had a bit to drink. I mean, what kind of culture is this at Derby? And then you pick them, and they go out and play on the pitch. I find this all a little bit weird, to be honest.
It's very strange. I mean, look, that being said, pot kettle black, we do have the same issue here with you, some of the incidents that have happened, but you're just so good at what you do.
Look, mate, I haven't drunk for day.
29 minutes past 8.
This is Love Sport. Follow @Love Sport Radio on Twitter for all the latest news, views, competitions, and the best bits from your favourite station. Love Sport, the station giving fans a voice. Whether you drive a car, motorbike or van, you need to insure it in case some dim-witted driver rear-ends you. But don't let yourself get mugged off by insurance firms. A spokesmansaid.com is a price comparison site that'll find the best deals for you.
The spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
When looking for the best possible deal for his car insurance, Jim went on a spokesmansaid.com and saved hundreds.
I'm Jim. I'm a radio presenter based in Glasgow. I couldn't believe how expensive the car insurance for our Citroen C4 Picasso was going to be from my existing insurer. I went on a Spokesman Said and saved an incredible £600. Just amazing.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
It feels really good because this was a really hard place to come. And then add to that the pressure of not beating Valencia in the first game. And we're young, and this is the first time for a few of our younger players to travel in Europe, which is hard anywhere, and against a Lille team, which we saw the attacking threats that they had in parts of the game. But I thought we played really well.
That was, of course, Frank Lampard, because Chelsea did beat Lille 2-1. I'm going to be speaking to Frank Sinclair, former Chelsea defender, very shortly on this. Just a quick roundup, though, of some of the stories we're covering today. Of course, Liverpool victorious last night. Did throw away a 3-goal lead, but they ended up winning 4-3 against Red Bull Salzburg. A big night in athletics, of course.
Oh, fantastic. Yes. So, look, athletics has been in the mire now for such a long time. You know, we've got the Alberto Salazar scandal that's dragged Mo Farah into it, kicking and screaming. We've got Lord Seb Coe, who is burying his head so far in the Doha sand that I'm pretty sure he's just come out in China. And actually, yesterday, Dina Asher-Smith, British Dina Asher-Smith, just dragged athletics out of the doldrums single-handedly, sobbed her heart out after becoming world 200 metres champion, storming to victory in a British record time of 21.88 seconds. She was our first female global sprint champion. She went and hugged her mum in the crowd. Wasn't hard to find her because there was no one else there. Just what a heartwarming, lovely story. Well done, Dina.
Indeed. In other news, the England football team will be announced very shortly. The Wales team has just been announced, the Wales squad, sorry. We'll also be talking more rugby very shortly too. We've got Ali Stokes coming on, actually, journalist for the Rugby Mag. But do want to talk about Chelsea. They were victorious last night. This young Chelsea squad, and I guess what was so pleasing last night was to see the likes of Tammy Abraham again. Another fantastic goal. But let's just touch on that. For those that haven't seen it, I would implore you to watch it. Brilliant touch it was from Tammy Abraham.
It's
to
like
take control
Velcro
of the ball
on his feet.
Well, it really. In fact, you know what? We've actually got. I see we've got Frank Sinclair, former Chelsea defender, on the line. I'm keen to ask him about this. Morning, Frank.
Good morning.
Morning. We've just been. Yeah, we're good. Hope you're well too. We've just been waxing lyrical about the young players at Chelsea. Certainly, Tammy Abrahams, of course, has bagged a lot of goals already this season. But that one yesterday was a little bit special. The more I've seen it, it was an incredible touch. And then to open his body up in the way that he did and find the top corner, it was a brilliant finish.
Yeah, it was excellent. Really surprising, really, because it kind of came out of nothing. But, you know, his first touch to control it was more reactional. But then, you know, the movement that he moved his body out the way to shift himself to get his opportunity to get his shot off was excellent. And it just shows a player that's playing with a lot of confidence at the moment and self-belief. And it's terrific to see because he had a really tough start, you know, being thrown in and people were not too sure whether he was right and ready to start for Chelsea. But he's certainly proven a few critics wrong and, you know, may long continue.
Please, please, please tell me that he's going to pick England over Nigeria.
Oh well, there's only one person that can answer that.
Can you have a word though? Could you maybe just say, "Look, I'm just do whatever you want, Tammy, as long as that is picking England, please."
Yeah, well, I think the people around him that will advise him, I think, obviously will tell him that he can have a great England career, and I believe, he may not get in immediately, but he's certainly one for the future. And you look at who England have got at the moment, the likes of Harry Kane, he's not going to shift him out the side quite, in the next few years or so, but certainly one for the future. But then, end of the day, he may well make his family proud playing for Nigeria. So, I had the option of playing for both England and Jamaica, and obviously didn't get a call up to get in the England side and decided to play for Jamaica in a World Cup. And, I made a lot of people proud back home and family members as well. So you'd understand it if he did decide to play for them, but you'd like to think that he will hang out and wait for the England opportunity.
There's a couple of interesting comparisons last night. So Rio Ferdinand commented that Tammy Abraham looked like Drogba last night, and Joe Cole compared Tomori to Rio Ferdinand. Is there a bit of a danger of making too many big comparisons too early?
Yeah, certainly. It's very early stages, and there's going to be ups and downs in their performances being so young. Pretty much learning on the job, these boys. But, the talent's always been there in Chelsea's academy for a long time, and it's been crying out for these players that have won, regular FA Youth Cups, regular league campaigns, even in competitions in Europe as well, that, Chelsea have arguably got some of the best young players in Europe in the academy, and now they're getting an opportunity under the tuition of Frank Lampard. But you don't want to put too much pressure on them. I think, they're all quality players. There's a long line of them. You think of the players that were involved yesterday, Mason Mount, Reece James, Hudson-Odoi comes on and affects the game. And obviously Abraham gets the goal. They're all affecting it. It's not just the fact that Frank Lampard's playing these players and they're doing okay. They're actually, really affecting the games and helping Chelsea to do well in different competitions.
Well, so just explain to me about what you think the reasoning behind these Chelsea-style successes, because I'm looking over at Manchester United. I've seen, former player in charge there as well, a lot of young players being given a chance, but it just seems, at least from the outside, that the application, the desire, the attitude, really, of a lot of these Chelsea youngsters seems to surpass some of that's going on at Old Trafford at the moment. Is that down to Frank Lampard, do you think?
No, I think Chelsea have had a history of a great academy setup, and they do things really well. The players get to a certain age, and then they go out on loan for a couple of years and come back proven players. And, obviously, Hudson-Odoi was probably the only one recently that's been fast-tracked straight to the first team last season. But the likes of Tomori, obviously Mount, Derby, Reece James last season at Wigan. Tammy Abraham's been away to Swansea, played in the Premier League. Aston Villa last season, scored a lot of goals. So these guys are not just getting thrown in at a certain stage, and you're looking at it and thinking, okay, let's see how they do. There's a process at Chelsea, and one thing with these young boys is they're in the system from the age of 8 or 9. Go through the system, obviously getting great coaching, on and off the pitch as well, and then they go through the loan system, which Eddie Newton up until this season headed up for a few years, sending players all around the world to learn their trade, come back better players. Andreas Christensen was another one that came through this system as well. So it's proven, and this is the first opportunity that Chelsea have had to play. Players all at the same time without a manager being under pressure to get results and do well, but also the understanding that there's going to be tough times with a group of youngsters involved as well.
Keen to get your thoughts on the Ross Barkley incident during the week. I mean, Frank Lampard made light of it to an extent, but I guess behind the scenes, I know as a player, had you gone and seen the manager and you'd been drinking on a Saturday night when you had a midweek game, I'm pretty sure the manager would have been quite annoyed, maybe privately, if not in the public eye. What did you make of that incident?
Yeah, I don't know too much about the details of it, but from what I do know, I think it's very close to the European tie. But I can't really comment on it too much because I don't know the ins and outs. But obviously, it was enough to have him left out the squad last night in a massive game. And it's with the competition of places in and around Chelsea at the minute. The last thing you want to be doing is actually missing out in competitions and an opportunity to play. With it being not football reasons, if I can say it like that.
Yeah. And just lastly, I mean, they went to Lille, obviously not an easy place to go, certainly quite a hostile atmosphere. They're showing that they're growing up very quickly, it seems. They've had a lot of ups and downs already. It's such a short period of time, but they've scored a lot of goals, conceded a lot of goals. It does look like they're growing of age, though.
Yeah, it certainly does. And, this Chelsea side remind me of very similar to the way that Derby played last season. And it is an attacking way of playing and concede the odd goal as well. But Frank Lampard believes that he's got players that a group of players that will win more than they will lose this season. And it's exciting to watch. And more importantly for me is the fans are behind him. And they are appreciating a different form of football that for me is a lot more exciting to watch than previous managers.
Yeah, and lastly, just a quick thought on Reece James, because I really like the look of him when I've seen him play, and he's certainly impressed at right back. There are so many academy products now that are getting their chance, which is partly because of the transfer window, the ban they've got, of course. But actually, it's in some ways, it seemingly is working out perfectly. And if the likes of Reece James, Tammy Abraham, Tomori, Mason Mount, all of these end up getting 30, 40 games under their belt by the end of the season, they could have some serious assets on their hands.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to save the club a lot of money in the transfer windows when eventually they can sign players. And there'll be no better feeling for the likes of Jody Morris and all the people behind the scenes at Chelsea Football Club that have been involved in the academy for so many years and worked tirelessly to get these players to these sort of standards, but not really, had the opportunity to get these boys all the way through to the first team. So I think it's excellent for these young players to get these opportunities. And Reece James is another one that been earmarked as a top player for 2 or 3 seasons. He hasn't just come and surprised everybody by his loan spell at Wigan and came back. We've known about Reece James in the system for the last 3 or 4 years, that he was another one that was going to be a top player as well.
And just lastly, obviously, Southampton away at the weekend. If they win, there's a good chance they'll be in the top 4 going into the international break. That would constitute a really successful start to the season, you'd think, if they are sat in the top 4 after 8 games. Certainly with the turmoil in the summer, the fact they couldn't buy anybody in the transfer window. To be top 4 going into the second international break, I'm sure every Chelsea fan would have taken that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think if Chelsea can, I know it's very early days, but if Chelsea can finish in the top 4 and get in the Champions League again, a Champions League spot for next season, I think that would be brilliant under the circumstances that Frank Lampard got in the straight.
Great stuff, Frank. Really appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.
Great stuff. Frank Sinclair, their former Chelsea defender, giving his thoughts on a big win, a good win, impressive win last night away at Lille. They are positioned pretty nicely in both the Champions League and the Premier League. It has been a successful start. Let's hear from Frank Lampard. I want to talk to you about this, Patrick. Let's hear from Lampard on the impact the academy products are making.
The fans are loving it, the club are loving it, and the players are responding. So that's nice, but this isn't a game for niceties to a degree. We have to go and win these matches and improve all the time. And, I think there were loads of signs of team improvement.
He's loving it. I feel like that's the advert for something. I'm loving it. But they are. I mean, this is, I suppose, a connection between fans and a team, right? In that we go back, the amount of times we touched on the class of 92 is probably a little bit too much, but obviously you are a Man United fan, so it's something that is very... it means a lot to you. But actually, do you know what? There is something about that team because, of course, the relationship between fans and team, of course, if you've got a few local lads that have done good, then naturally there's going to be a bit more of an affiliation and you want the local lads to do well.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone wants to see it. And I remember I used to especially tune in for the Victory Shield, which I'm assuming is still a thing. where I think it was under 15s, under 16s anyway, of England, the home nations, and that was brilliant. By the way, in the Victory Shield, John Joe Shelby used to play central midfield for England. He used to take free kicks and shoot from beyond the halfway line and score. I'm sure there's some footage of this. That guy was seen. It just shows, doesn't it, actually, different player development at different times, because he was the standout player in that side, and now he's not so much. But yeah, no, I think people just naturally like to see youngsters coming through. It's something that excites fans. And look, as well, at the moment, given the physicality of football and the pace and the speed of reaction times and everything, it's not really a surprise that we are seeing footballers get younger and younger.
Indeed. We're going to be talking a bit of rugby, because we haven't touched on it too much yet, but we will be right after this.
England is the wettest country around, but what do you expect if the Queen's going to reign for so long?
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
This is Lionel, another very happy person who saved themselves money at a spokesmansaid.com.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Peacehaven. I took note of what the spokesman said and I saved £484 per year on my energy, and I recommend everybody does the same.
A spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings. Compare, switch and save with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do, the smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
This is Love Sport.
Yeah, well, I say it every week. It's the most difficult selection, but we had 31 players competing hard for places. We had an outstanding training run yesterday. We've got 8 disappointed players, but they understand they have a massive role to play to support the team. And conversely, the guys who have been selected need to support those guys. And it's a credit to our strength and conditioning staff and our medical staff what great condition we're in to be. We're 6 games into a World Cup preparation, 4 warm-up games and 2 World Cup games. We've got 31 players to select from.
Eddie Jones, of course. So, look, lots going on in the rugby. We're going to be talking a bit of Ireland, of course, a bit of England taking on Russia, I believe, of course. We're actually going to be speaking to Ali Stokes very shortly, journalist for the Rugby Mag, to get his thoughts on the upcoming games. What have you made of England so far, though, Patrick?
Yeah, pretty impressive. It looks like they're on a mission, aren't they, really, to desperately try and conquer the world, which is it's not unlike England, is it? I think they're looking really tight at the moment. The big test will be Argentina, France after that, and I think the draw and the way it's worked out for them is really, really good, because you see the way that New Zealand and South Africa played in the very first game, and you've got to get right up for what is basically a World Cup final game, and then everything's a bit downhill for that. Then you've got to get up for it again in the kind of quarters, the semis, and the final. Whereas England have just had quite a steady progression through, starting with Tonga, then going to the USA, Argentina, France, and when it gets to the knockout stages, they'll be there. They'll be just getting into 5th gear.
Touching on Ireland, in fact, I think I got mixed up. Ireland, of course, playing Russia today, which takes place in just a few hours' time. It's a big game for them after their defeat against Japan.
Yes, very big, very big. Ireland definitely need to bounce back. You just have a sense there with Ireland that they, again, about peaking too early. You know, they were world number 1 for a little while, and they were seen as the potential conquerors of international rugby. Could they beat the All Blacks? And then they go and get stuffed by Japan. You know, and it's been a little bit of a slow decline for Ireland. I just wonder with Ireland whether or not they've got a slightly small country mentality when it comes to their rugby, because they've got a huge amount of talent in that squad, and it is just maybe lacking that cutting edge, because they've not been used to winning high level international tournaments for a while.
As much as I like my rugby, I need your help on this. Give me an analogy as to what the equivalent would be. Japan beating Ireland. What would that be?
That's a good question.
Who would that be beating England in football?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say Iceland.
Okay.
Like when Iceland beat them, because they're still a good side, but they're not world beaters.
No, Kieran, nod or yeah, he agrees with that. Okay, right, so that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was bad. Japan is not a natural rugby playing country. You could say. I just want to point as well. I think the real win, whatever team lifts the trophy, Japan will be the real winners from this World Cup. I think fantastically well organised thing so far. The Japanese people have just gone absolutely mad for it, which is what you want from any kind of World Cup hosting nation. Step forward. The locals in Doha at the World Athletics Championships, of course, none of them are there. So this is nice to have a nation that's done that. They are all they're absolutely crackers for like the environment basically as well. So they're all cleaning the stadiums after the games themselves and all this kind of stuff. And it just seems like a really nice vibe. Every time you see an interview with a fan that's over there, it just looks like this just fabulously well organised, feel-good event. And of course, they beat Ireland as well, probably the greatest Rugby World Cup shock of all time. So yeah, well done, Japan.
I think Kieran wants to chip in.
Yeah, I just want to run through Eddie Jones's selection for the game against Argentina on Saturday. It's virtually the same team that opened the tournament against Tonga, with the exception of Lock George Cruz in place of Courtney Laws. Ben Youngs is going to become the third most capped England men's player of all time when he wins his 92nd cap at scrum half. So the team is as follows: Daly at fullback, Watson, Tuilagi, Farrell, May, Ford, Ben Youngs, and then the forwards: Marler, George, Sinclair, Itoje, Cruz, Curry, Underhill, Billy, Vunipola. But the two biggest stories for me are on the bench, where Jack Knoll and Mako Vunipola both take their places after long-term injuries, and it's great to see that we've been fairly lucky with the schedule in terms of playing Tonga and USA first, has allowed these big name players that have been carrying injuries into the World Cup, like Knoll and Mako Vunipola, to recover. We've not had to risk them. They'll be introduced hopefully off the bench against Argentina with us, in a winning position, and then hopefully they can play against France, and we're looking very strong, and we're a very strong 23 there, named by Eddie Jones, and no, it's looking pretty good. Our set piece is in a good place, Eddie Jones says, and Argentina is a different team, and it will be a test, but we seem to have come through it really well. France obviously struggled against the USA yesterday, until about the 65th, 70th minute. So, no, we look pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with how we're shaping up.
So Matt Dawson predicting an England-Wales final. Realistic?
No, to be honest. I think it's Northern Hemisphere bias again. It's hopeful to suggest that it'll be two Northern Hemisphere sides, because New Zealand are just so strong. Australia have shown their frailties. I think they won't be as strong as potentially they have been in previous World Cups. South Africa obviously losing by 10 points to New Zealand, but I suppose that's no, every team has the potential to do that. So South Africa will be right in there. I think Ireland have really slipped up though. They will have to play one of New Zealand or South Africa in the quarterfinals, and that's going to be really tough for them. And for a country that's never got past the quarterfinal stage at a World Cup, they're such a proud rugby nation. And they thought heading into this World Cup, second in the world, this was their best chance, but not looking likely.
Well, no, I suppose the argument will always be that if you're going to end up winning the World Cup, you have to beat these teams at some point. Russia shouldn't pose, I know Japan shouldn't have, but Russia shouldn't pose any problems though, should they?
No. Russia played okay against Japan, and obviously Joe Schmidt was very wary in his post-match press conference after the Japan game to write off Russia as coaches who've just suffered a morale sapping defeat is bound to suggest. But yeah, it should be no problem today at 11:15.
Do you reckon he'll give a Schmidt if they lose?
Oh, you are just witty to the extreme, Patrick Christys, this morning. What have you eaten?
It's a valid question.
Well, yes, I'm sure he would. And I'm sure he'd be out of a job if they lost to Russia, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Indeed. They used to be like the classic dig, Patrick Schmatrick.
Yeah.
Like you said as a child, that was a real good, really good line of banter. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, you can see if he gets sacked, the press, wouldn't he? What a load of Schmidt.
Oh, it's the simple things. Fantastic. Thank you, Kieran, for your rugby knowledge, your rugby expertise. He is an expert in so many things, isn't he?
He's a meteorologist as well. We
He's a
wheel him out to do the
meteorologist.
weather every now and again.
Do you know what? This was it. When we advertised for the position, it was there was a lot of things that needed filling, but thankfully he fills them all.
Yeah.
So moving back to football, obviously a big night for Liverpool, a 4-3 win against Red Bull Salzburg. They have shown some frailties in defence, though. I know there's a lot of people commenting on that in the papers today. Here's one for you, a little fact that I heard yesterday, which you might find interesting, you might not. They've actually, and this might be where luck plays a part, they've had more goalkeeping errors go in their favour than any other team in the Premier League. So
Really?
basically, the amount of goals they've scored, more goalkeeping errors.
Yeah.
Is that luck, or is that the fact that they're attacking?
No, I think they're attacking so much. They've probably given goalkeepers a lot more to do as well, I would have thought. And I think as well, though, the thing with Liverpool is it's a bit psychological, where you know that if someone fires a shot in from the edge of the box, you've got like 3 lightning quick forwards just chasing it up. So the second you spill it, and then that's on your mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
That, and as well, the Liverpool ball boys are seen greasing up the balls quite heavily before a game.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's some question marks about whether that's really right. Probably not. But
they did dominate last night. It's worth saying. I know that. I think it was a bit of complacency last night from Liverpool. You go 3-0 up. They had 70% possession. For goodness sake, 400 more passes than Salzburg. I mean, the stats here are pretty damning, really, in terms of the domination of the game. It was just testament to Salzburg that they managed to claw their way back into it.
It was, and we touched on it, they actually celebrated after the game. They came back out after the tunnel. The fans stayed. They celebrated with their fans despite losing 4-3. I guess, and this is maybe where, we talk about teams that don't necessarily believe they deserve to be there. And whether it is that they haven't been in the Champions League for 25 years, maybe it's just a case of them seeing themselves as minnows, and the fact they've gone and put on such a good performance, which they did. They came from 3 goals down to come back to 3-3, but it does seem a little
Wasn't
bit
it eerily reminiscent of Jurgen Klopp making his team go and walk up to the Liverpool fans and do the whole hand-waving thing, the oi, when they drew 2-2, was it away at West Brom?
Yeah.
I think it was. And everyone was a little bit like,
really awkward. The players were really awkward.
Yeah, the players were like, I don't know about this, but hey, now they're Champions League winners.
There you go. Simple as that. We've got loads to come. Stay with us. 3 minutes to 9.
Love sport. SpokesmanSaid.com is a leading price comparison website that allows you to compare every energy tariff on the market in seconds. We have more deals than any other comparison website offering energy prices, and our impartial independent switching service is free of charge. Nearly 50% of UK households have switched bills, and there are hundreds to be saved. Visit SpokesmanSaid.com, as recommended in The Guardian, The Times and The Sun. SpokesmanSaid.com.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, but with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
Last Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you for another hour or so. And then, of course, a fantastic show that comes after us. Mr. Martin Bell will be up next, of course. We've got loads to come in the next hour. We're actually going to be speaking to Jonathan Stock, former advisor of Theresa May, James Barge as well, Ed Miliband's former advisor too. We're also going to be speaking to Tony Thorpe, former Bristol City, QPR and Luton striker. There was a full list of fixtures over the last couple of days and lots more to come too in the final hour. As always, you can get in touch with us on WhatsApp 0208 70 20 558. You can get in touch on the socials, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Love Sport Radio. Or if you fancy checking us out on YouTube, you can simply go on YouTube, type in Love Sport Radio, and we are live as we speak right now. So feel free. But as I say, lots more to come. We're going to be speaking more about the Champions League as well. A good win last night for Liverpool. A great win for Chelsea away at Lille. The time is 9 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 9, Boris Johnson meets his cabinet this morning as Downing Street says 10 days of intense discussions are beginning over his plans for a new Brexit deal. The Prime Minister is proposing some customs checks around the Irish border and scrapping the controversial backstop. The plan's been rejected by Ireland's Prime Minister, but Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay reckons Dublin can be convinced.
The alternative is if we don't leave in a smooth and orderly way, then I would expect the other EU countries to require the protection of the single market by the Irish government, which would mean many of these things would need to be done in any event. So it's far better to do it through a deal.
A teenager who's in hospital after being shot by police during riots in Hong Kong has been charged with assaulting a police officer. The 18-year-old's in a critical condition. Scotland's expected to become the first part of the UK to ban smacking later. Proposals to remove parents' rights to use reasonable physical force to punish their children should pass a vote among MSPs. The High Court's due to rule on whether the government discriminated against women born in the 50s when they raised the state pension age. Campaigners say the increase from 60 to 65 was unfair. In sport, Dina Asher-Smith stormed to victory last night, winning gold in the 200 metres at the World Athletics Championships. She's the first British woman to triumph in the event. Asher-Smith was the favourite heading into the race and says she had to avoid the hype.
I just deleted Twitter and Instagram for the duration of the championships. But I just tuned myself out and allowed myself to focus because, as I said, if you get swept up in those things, that's when you start to get distracted.
And Tom Lawrence has been included in the Wales squad for their upcoming Euro 2020 qualifiers with Slovakia and Croatia. The Derby forward played for his club for the first time last night since being charged with drink driving. Ashley Williams returns after being left out during the last international break. That's the latest. I'm Anna Bates.
Love Sport.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do.
Joker is the film of the year, says Empire. An instant classic, says NME. The Guardian calls it gloriously daring.
People are starting to notice.
Total Film says Joaquin Phoenix is astonishing.
Send in the cloud. When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
Joker, in cinemas Friday. Book tickets now. Certificate 15.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Good morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another hour or so before Mr. Martin Bell takes over from us with his fantastic show. Just to touch on the top stories this morning, a big night for both Liverpool and Chelsea. Liverpool won 4-3, they did throw away a 3-goal lead, but ended up getting the winner. Chelsea won 2-1 away at Lille, but arguably the biggest story of the day, Dina Asher-Smith.
Definitely the biggest story of the day. Athletics is in the doldrums at the moment. You've got Seb Coe there fronting it up, burying his head in the Doha sand, doing all he can to try and falsely protect the reputation of an absolutely scandal-ridden sport riddled with drugs. You've seen the whole Alberto Salazar thing. Mo Farah's been dragged into the mud. Paula Radcliffe hasn't covered herself in glory with her comments. Step forward, Dina. A British hero is born. Dina Asher-Smith sobbed her heart out last night after becoming the world 200-metre champion. Worth pointing out as well, she got silver in the 100 metres. She set a British record time of 21.88 seconds. She's only the 7th British female athlete to win a world medal as well. And it was just fabulous to watch. Her mum was there in the crowd. Dina walks over, gives her a big hug. They both break down in tears. Just incredible. It was a really emotional day. And I think this achievement can't be overstated, actually, what she's done here. And, you know, just fantastic. And such a contrast from all the negativity surrounding athletics at the moment.
Indeed, and you get the feeling it's the first of many. She is the first to win a sprint gold medal in either the World Championships or the Olympics since Christys back in 1993.
Well, look, it's going to take some stopping. She's on fire at the moment, really, and she's peaked at exactly the right time. Look, she's certainly someone that we can pin our hopes on. And also, the fact is that she seems so normal. I know that we've heard from her earlier in the show. I'm sure we'll hear from her again. Whereas, with the best one in the world, when you hear Mo Farah talk, you know, I mean, what did he do just before the London Marathon? Crowbarred in the fact that his watch had debatably been nicked at some kind of training camp in wherever it was. Look, I don't mind saying this. Anyone that I speak to who knows Mo Farah say that he's changed as a person and he's not a particularly nice guy to be around. I'm sure Mo Farah would dispute that. But that's what I've heard from numerous people who are very close to Mo Farah. Whereas Dina Smith looks lovely, looks really nice. The kind of poster girl of British athletics going forward. We needed a new hero because I've never been quite sold on Mo.
Okay, well, there you go. She was excellent. A team that weren't particularly excellent for a period of time yesterday, Liverpool. Chris Sutton said Liverpool fell to pieces last night.
And I said earlier, I mean, it's not often you see Virgil van Dijk sat on his backside. I mean, Hwang twisted him inside out. Wonderful finish. And then, actually, you think that Liverpool would go in. That was a bit of a warning shot and start the second half really strongly. And that didn't happen. It was Salzburg who really came out of the traps. And brilliant second goal as it was. And then Liverpool just fell to pieces. And the sort of traits which would associate with Liverpool over the past season and a bit, you know, strength, character, leaders at the back, they just fell to pieces, they did.
That was Chris Sutton there giving his thoughts on Liverpool. We did speak to Chris Kirkland earlier in the show, who was a lot more positive about the Liverpool performance. He didn't really think that Liverpool were overly worried at any point. I mean, Jurgen Klopp didn't look particularly worried.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, it was actually a really dominating performance by Liverpool with some defensive frailties perhaps thrown in. Liverpool had 70% possession. They're only ever really looked like one team that was going to go on and win it. Fabulous effort from Salzburg. But what you're dealing with here is a team that hasn't been in the Champions League for 20-odd years. This is the biggest game of their season. Playing the European champions. And Liverpool found themselves coasting and just kind of stepped off the gas a little bit and got punished. They won the game in the end. Look, I don't reckon there's going to be much of an inquest into this after the game. I reckon he's just going to go, right, lads, look, we won. Let's just try a bit harder next week.
I do wonder as well with Liverpool, of course, winning the Champions League last season. I think most Liverpool fans, in fact, pretty much every Liverpool fan, if you gave them a choice out of the Premier League or the Champions League, given that they won the Champions League a couple of times in recent years now, I think it's all about the Premier League. And I'm getting a slight sense, only 2 games in the Champions League, admittedly, but a slight sense that they are putting so much more emphasis on the league.
I think so, and I think rightly so as well. My concern with that would be if they are weaker at the back this year than they were last year, which they do look it, and I wonder whether or not the Alisson injury is had a bit of a thing with this, because Virgil van Dijk always looks so settled. Now, Joe Gomez, for me, I actually rate him higher than Matip, but you know that's probably why I'm not Liverpool's manager, isn't it? But he is class as well. So I don't really buy into the fact that you've got, and they've got probably some of the 2 best wing backs in world football, haven't they? Really? So I wonder whether the fact that Alisson isn't there has just put a little seed of doubt in the likes of Virgil van Dijk's head. Maybe that's why you've seen a little dip in performance. But I am concerned for them in terms of the consistency they would need in the league to win it, because if they played like this in the league and let a 3-goal lead slip, there's no chance, there's no saying that they are going to come back and win that game 4-3.
But let's not forget, of course, they have won all 7 games in the league so far, so it's very much excellence, and they're just looking to take it to the next level. Let's move on to a little bit of Championship, because of course it was a big couple of days in the Championship, and as always it's as tight as ever. 5 points separating the top 11 teams. A couple of those teams are teams that this man has played for, Mr. Tony Thorpe, former QPR, Bristol City and Luton striker. Morning, Tony.
Morning, guys.
Morning. I hope you are. I want to touch on a couple of the games last night. I was actually at the Bristol City game, Brentford-Bristol City, which for me, 2 really good teams going at it. Great advert for Championship football. I want to talk about QPR first and foremost. They've had a positive start to the season, but just a little bit of a slip the last couple of games.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, at the start of the season when I came on the radio show, I kind of tipped QPR to have an indifferent season, probably struggle actually, and how wrong I was. They've had a relatively good start to the season. Bob obviously playing West Brom last week and getting beat 2-0 at home was a tough one to take, and then probably a battering last night at Cardiff, which is never easy to go to. So, yeah, they've had a bit of a stumble, but all in all, I think it's not a bad start to the season at all.
Yeah, and just a quick word on QPR. I see they dropped their goalkeeper last night, Joe Lumley. Kelly was given his first start, I believe, in the league this season. So, obviously, Mark Warburton not scared to change things around, but I think 10 games in, 16 points, 5 points off top. I think most QPR fans would have taken that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, him leaving the goalkeeper out and bringing somebody else in, like you just said, I don't think Mr. Warburton's worried about changing players if they're not performing. Just unfortunate last night that the keeper's gone in and conceded 3. I haven't seen the goals this morning, but I'm sure they'll bounce back. But they have got Hull away Saturday, and they've just come off a not a bad result against Sheffield Wednesday at home, so that won't be easy either.
No, I want to touch on Bristol City. A lot of people have them as one of the favourites for promotion this season. Of course, lost a couple of key players in the summer. Webster moving on to Brighton in particular, which obviously £20 million, good business for Bristol City, but at the same time he was a key player for them last season. They currently find themselves 7th, just a point outside the playoffs. A solid start for them. Lee Johnson's done a good job there.
Doing a great job. He's had, 3 or 4 years now in the Championship. They know what it's all about, Bristol. They've just got to go that extra mile, really, just to get the job done, maybe make a playoff place or maybe even get promoted. I think he's got a good squad. I haven't been down to Ashton Gate this year. Going to probably go over in the next couple of weeks. But when I have seen them play, they've got a really good team. And kind of prepared, really, year on, year out with the Championship. So they've got a good, strong side. I agree with you. I think they'll be in the shake-up this year. But it is such a tough league. I watched Leeds and West Brom the other night, 2 very, very good sides. So it's a long season, but I think Bristol will be there and thereabouts.
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, it is, we always talk about the Championship. It's always been, certainly last few years, my favourite league. I mean, who would have said that at this point in the season, Stoke would have been rock bottom, 2 points after 10 games. Just a quick word on them. As it stands, Nathan Jones is still in a job. Would you expect that to be the case for the weekend, or would you expect a change to be made?
I know Nathan. I was, funny enough, he was at Luton as a young kid when I was there many years ago. He's obviously done really well within his coaching methods. Did a great job at Luton. Finds himself at a very, very good club in Stoke. I couldn't put my finger on what's happened with Nathan and Stoke, but they just haven't got the results. I think he's on borrowed time. I watched a couple of his interviews after the game, the last 2 games, which he's got beat. And the pressure's definitely getting to him. Stoke on 2 points just isn't good enough for a club that, of that stature, and obviously coming out of the Premier League just only, a year and a half ago. So, tough job. Yeah, answer to your question is I don't see him being in the role any more than the next couple of weeks if the results carry on the way they are.
Yeah, indeed. It's interestingly, his last couple of interviews almost been like resignation speeches. It's very strange.
Yeah, I feel for him. You don't want to see ex-players or managers going through that, but that's what the job does for you. That's why I don't do it.
Yeah, you and me both. I want to touch on another one of your former clubs. In fact, it was an interesting clash. Luton taking on Millwall. 2 teams that have got certainly one of the smaller budgets in the division, but both doing okay, 17th and 18th respectively, both on the same number of points. They fought out a 1-1 draw. Luton, in terms of expectations this season, I would assume it's more a case of staying in the division?
Absolutely. I think they'll be fine. I think they've got some great young players. I think Collins is a good player. In the transfer market this year, I think he's done a really good job, the manager. Neil Harris knows the level again. He's had 3 or 4 years probably at that level now as manager. Every single year, Neil seems to be doing a great job. I think you're right, survival for Millwall is imperative, and he's managed to do that. It's going to get harder each year, but he seems to keep doing it. On regards Luton, I watched a bit of the game last night, and it was quite a good game. Millwall are quite a strong side, and Luton are probably going to take a little bit of time to get used to 3 or 4 promotions in 5 or 6 years. So they've kind of found themselves in the Championship now, and kind of the big boys league. But so far, I think they've done really well, and I think they should just be fine.
Okay. And a quick word on Charlton. They've had an incredible start to the season. They went 1-0 up last night against Swansea. Of course, Swansea top of the table as it stands. Swansea did come back and won the game 2-1. By all accounts, edge of the game from the reports that I'm reading. But Charlton so far so good, but they have lost, I believe, 3 of the last 4. Might be a sign that it's just getting a little bit tougher. I guess for Charlton it'll be very similar to Luton, given their budget, that it'll be a case of staying up.
Absolutely. I mean, Lee Bowyer's done an absolute great job there. Seems like he's got morale going. The supporters are obviously coming back in their numbers. I like watching Charlton. They've got some great young players. You're right. I think survival for these kind of clubs is definitely their focus throughout the year. But what it tends to happen in the Championship is there's never an easy game any week. You know, most leagues you'll have a few fixtures where you think, right, we'll go through November and we can pick up certain points. In the Championship, you can lose 4 games in a bounce, in a heartbeat, and it really is that tough. So for teams like Charlton and Luton, Millwall, teams like that, without the budget, they're going to find it tough, you know, kind of around Christmas time. So if they can stay above the drop zone and keep, I think the home form's imperative for those kind of clubs. But it will be interesting because Stoke haven't started very well. Huddersfield has struggled. 2 teams that found themselves in the Premier League over the last 2 or 3 years. It's not easy, that Championship, as you've told us, and people already know. There's just not an easy game. I mean, I tipped Cardiff this year, and they haven't started great, although they had a good result last night. I think Neil Warnock will still have Cardiff in and around that top 6 come the end of the season.
And a quick word on what you're doing now. Am I right in thinking that you're manager of Melton Town at the moment?
No, that's somebody's mentioned that. No, I resigned from that job about a year and a half ago. Spent a bit more time with my boys, but I didn't feel the pressure like the guys do now. Don't worry, I didn't have no budget. All travelling in our own cars to our away games in the UCL. But no, I work for a company called ATA. I've been in recruitment for 6 years now, and we're engineering specialists. So anybody listening out there needs an engineer or within the auto and aero market, give us a call.
Fantastic. Lovely little plug. Love that. Great stuff. Appreciate you joining us, Tony.
Top man. Take care, guys.
Great stuff. Tony Thorpe there, former QPR, Bristol City and Luton striker. Right, we're going to delve into some of the front pages next. We've got a couple of very interesting guests, haven't we? Jonathan Stock?
Yes, we do. Yes, we've got a couple of interesting guests. Basically, we're sick and tired of Brexit here at Love Sport, and I'm pretty sure that all our listeners are as well. We're sick of the never-ending cycle of persistent misery that is our rather fractured exit of the European Union. So we decided to try and get some big hitters on, some political big hitters on, to tell us what they think we should all be talking about instead. And just before we do go to that, it is worth just pointing out, because this will not be discussed in our political roundup, that Prince Harry has kind of put his foot in it again. Just quickly, we all know that Prince Harry issued that kind of warning shot to the press yesterday. He's going to take the Mail on Sunday to court, or at least he's claiming he will, over the quote-unquote bullying of Meghan Markle. A couple of issues here, which is that apparently Harry launched this statement off his own bat, hadn't told the Queen, hadn't told Prince Charles, hadn't told William about any of this. And it is really looking like it's backfiring quite a lot. The fact is as well, there's a really good piece in Spikes Online about this, saying that actually what he wants for all his kind of wokeness is a return to the 1960s, when the monarchy was so above the media that they only ever had positive press. And that isn't particularly inclusive, is it? That's not really what you would have thought that he would normally stand for. To be honest with you, it is starting to look a little bit unhinged, this from Harry. And I just wonder this. I wonder what our listeners think. Do you like Prince Harry less than you did before he married Meghan?
Okay, let us know. 0208 70 20 558. More on that shortly. 18 minutes past 9.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
I have a strong connection with Scotland. I believe my tan shade is iron blue.
This is Love Sport.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Now, we like to go through the sports pages, but of course we do a lot of front page stuff as well, and delighted to say that joining us is, of course, Lewis Radstone Stubbs. Morning, Lewis.
Morning, how are we?
Good
Very
morning.
well.
Very, very well. And Patrick, I believe we've got a very special guest on the line.
What will we do? Just before we get to them, obviously, we don't worry, listeners, we are still going to come on to the Liverpool game, the Chelsea game, and Dina Asher-Smith's heroics in the Athletics last night as well. But Lewis, you know better than anyone that we're all a little bit sick of Brexit, aren't we?
That's the thing, yeah. I felt very apologetic for coming here the last couple of days and speaking about Brexit headlines. So I thought, what would the news be if Brexit hadn't happened? You know, the news has been so captured in Brexit for the last 3.5 years. There must be so many other things that have been completely distracted. So yeah, today we're just going to speak to a couple of people that have a bit of an inside track on these matters and speak to them about what they think the news should be at the minute.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, we've got some very special guests on the line, actually. Jonathan Stock, who's former advisor to Theresa May. We're also going to be joined by James Barge as well, former advisor to Ed Miliband. So this is the whole thing. If Brexit had never happened, what would we be talking about? So, Jonathan Stock, I'm going to throw over to you first and foremost. Former advisor to Theresa May. Really great to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much. What do you reckon we'd have been talking about if Brexit hadn't happened? Theresa May was somehow leader anyway, and she just had, what would it be now? 3.5, nearly 4 years, I suppose, of non-Brexit stuff to deal with. What will we be talking about?
I think I'd love to say that we'd all be living in a peaceful, calm, parallel universe where the country wasn't divided. But I think it's worth considering that there were a series of underlying issues in domestic politics that ultimately drove Britain and all those Leave voters to vote to leave the European Union. So though we wouldn't have been debating Europe and we wouldn't have been debating negotiations, I think we would have still had an element of a sort of political changeable times in terms of there would have been a lot domestically that politicians would have needed to address in order to make sure and reassert their credibility as the leader of the country. And interestingly enough, I was looking back on this. Theresa May stood on the steps of Downing Street on her first day in office and spoke about Brexit, and she came out with her famous mantra, but she also sought to address what she thought she called burning injustices in society. They were the motivators of the Brexit vote, and most of those were associated with domestic policy about racial inequality, about your chances if you go to a state school, how you achieve a top profession in the country. If you're a woman, you're paid less than a man. If you suffer from mental health, accessing treatment is hard. And all of those things, but home ownership, if you're young, buying a home is increasingly less accessible. All of those issues would have been her programme for government. And at times she sought to deliver those. But in reality, as we've found persistently over the last few years, Brexit crowded any kind of substantial policy interventions in those spaces, really.
Fantastic. Do you, kind of knowing her as you did you see a kind of visible annoyance in her not being able to crack on with what she wanted to do because she was so sidelined by Brexit?
I think almost every day We don't know much about, I suppose, the former Prime Minister's personality, but she did have a certain eye roll and occasionally a sort of turned lip if she found that, something she was trying to achieve, be that the biggest financial intervention, the biggest financial investment in the health service that she delivered, in sort of classic news times of 4 or 5 years ago, that might well have run and dominated the news for several days. It would have given the government a great opportunity to be talking consistently about something domestic. But all it took in that time would be either a backbencher or a government minister or an EU stakeholder coming out and saying something that challenges a Brexit news headline or the development in the negotiations, and that would get sort of blown off course quite easily. And I think that was something that really disappointed her, because she built her premiership around those commitments that she'd made, and in practice spent almost all her time dealing with the realities of the day-to-day of Brexit and trying to get negotiations and ultimately sort of honour the results of the referendum.
It's something that you said there that it's not the first time I've heard somebody quite close to Theresa May say that, which is that not knowing too much about personality. And I think there's a lot of skill potentially in that, in terms of being a relatively closed book. Of course there is. But do you think, though, that regardless of Brexit, Theresa May maybe had the personal traits needed to kind of cajole a nation, to rally the troops, as it were, and to maybe get people kind of batting for her side?
I think so. I mean, if you reflect back on that first year in government until the somewhat disastrous 2017 election campaign, where it really was a sort of, the project started to crumble, I suppose. That first year, she was very popular, and she was perceived as a very strong-minded leader with a very clear idea about how to not only deliver Brexit, but also how to deliver on her domestic promises that she made through the sort of very short leadership campaign and then on the steps of Downing Street. And there were moments where opportunities sort of cut through, but you're right. I think her stature diminished as time went on, and I think Brexit and the intrusiveness of that national issue and international issue ultimately sort of diminished her stature and her profile in the UK and internationally, which ultimately led to her being pushed from office in the end.
Okay, and one final question. This is putting you slightly on the spot, so I do apologise. But if we can, in your kind of this parallel dreamy universe, what do you think that a typical front page could say today, going on some of the things that you mentioned earlier that May would have wanted to work on?
I think it would have to be on housing. The dream election. In the situation we're in, a Conservative government delivering houses for young people is very much within the Conservative sort of territory in its comfort. If you sort of reflect back to the era of Margaret Thatcher, that was a fundamental reform that she made in terms of home ownership. And we've heard at party conference over the last few days that continues to be something that's of importance. But I think it's also something that's critical to those that are becoming adults now, is seeing that as fundamentally unreachable. And actually to be able to address that with a sort of substantial house building and home ownership sort of revolution, I think is certainly would be a domestic agenda that I think would be deserving of the front page.
Jonathan, thank you very, very much. Absolute pleasure to have you on, actually. And great insight there. Jonathan Stock, former advisor to Theresa May. I think that's really interesting news, because the fact is that since Brexit, we've not really spoken about the fact that there is a housing crisis. The NHS could do with a lot of help. So could the education system. Our armed forces are kind of in tatters. Transport system's not great. 1/3 of trains are late. That is nuts. I mean, mine actually set on fire this morning. Seriously, I had to get an Uber in because it was on fire. So I mean, things in this country need a bit of a helping hand in other departments, don't they?
Absolutely. Every day this week, I've been over 20 minutes delayed on trains, and then if you try and take a bus, then it's a complete circus.
Yeah.
There's so many other things which need to have so much concentration on them.
Well, this is why, again, we've managed to get another good guest on. It's James Barge here, who's former advisor to Ed Miliband. And, I saw a brilliant thing the other day, which was that in a world of Donald Trump, and in a world of Brexit and Boris Johnson potentially giving a lot of taxpayers' money to a tech entrepreneur, all of a sudden Ed Miliband eating a bacon sandwich the wrong way doesn't look so bad, does it? So James, thank you very, very much for coming on and taking part in this. We're keen to know from your perspective, if Brexit had never happened, if Ed Miliband was still leader of the Labour Party, or was still involved in a prominent way at least, what do you think we would be talking about and addressing as a nation now?
Hi guys, good to talk to you. Yeah, I think it's fair that Ed would not have been taking IT lessons from a tech entrepreneur. I think that's one thing that would not have been happening. But I think that you touched on an important point there. As much as we all want to remove kind of this Brexit sore, this kind of sponge which is taking up all this time and space for politics more generally, the issues that drove and manifested that vote would still very much still exist. So I think if we're 4 years into a Labour government at this stage, then certainly issues around living standards, wealth inequality, the climate crisis, which we're seeing more becoming ever more prevalent in the debate, would be two of the kind of the big issues around that. So I think when we come to policy, we're looking at things like the real living wage, talking about how we actually tackle in-work poverty, the 21st century definition of poverty now being two working parents with two children who can't quite make their ends meet, rather than sort of pensioner poverty as it was 10, 15 years ago. And then talking about things like the Green New Deal, where actually you're taking policies like climate change and the climate crisis and embedding them into society from top to bottom, so that you're tackling them in the form of jobs, you're tackling them in the form of skills for the future, design, more greener spaces, etc., rather than just seeing it as a climate issue itself.
Brilliant. So yeah, you touched on the climate crisis, and Greta Thunberg, obviously a character which some love and some seem to take a slightly different opinion on. Do you think that Ed Miliband would have had the kind of power or the ability to really unite the nation on the climate crisis as an issue, or do you think that there would still be a somewhat kind of fractured opinion on it?
I think the way that he's approaching it now, so he's taking the climate crisis and the inequality crisis, or what the post-financial crisis settlement looks like, and putting them together, which I think is eminently sensible. You can't just look at climate change as being an issue for one government department to solve. And albeit, to be fair, government as a whole is trying to respond. I think when you put them together in the form of this Green New Deal, you're looking at it on a cross-party basis, again, a sensible move. I think you are taking that challenge in a serious fashion and putting forward solutions which go beyond kind of the current Labour Party's policy of just like 1.75 million solar panels, etc., and talking more about how you embed the answer to climate change through every single facet of government's output. You also need to recognise that government doesn't have the kind of the reach it did sort of a century ago, and you need to work out how you take power out of Whitehall and give it to local authorities and others, because, as Greta Thunberg is a great example of, you're seeing people far more activists than they probably have been in some time.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because we had Jonathan Stock on before, former advisor to Theresa May, and he said, look, I think we'd be speaking about the NHS, and I think we'd be speaking about the housing crisis if it wasn't for Brexit. You've come on, you've mentioned climate change there as well as clearly a very big and important topic. I think you kind of touched on a bit more local power as well, kind of slightly down the devolution angle. There's a thing on Ed Miliband's tablets of stone, of course, now infamous tablets of stone, that says number 4, controls on immigration. What do you reckon we'd be talking about in that respect now if we had a Miliband or Miliband-esque government that wasn't just wrapped up in Brexit?
Well, I think that was probably a recognition that one of the policies or one of the issues that eventually led to 52% voting to leave was bubbling around on the agenda. If you take Ed's constituency, it had one of the highest leave votes in the country. So he's very aware of that being a debate and what the settlement is essentially in 21st century for British citizens around this. Look, obviously we wouldn't have had a referendum, but we would have had to have had a significant discussion about what Britain's role is in the EU and how it works or didn't work for British people. So I think we'd be talking about a sensible reformed European Union when it came to immigration. But at the same time, immigration brings huge benefits to this country. And Jonathan was talking about the NHS earlier. It's staffed by people who come to this country in order to work it, staff it, and make it a fantastic institution that it is. So having a reasoned and rational debate around immigration, the benefits as well as the potential impacts that it has on particularly smaller towns and cities outside of London, would have been a better quality of national conversation than we see at the moment.
Excellent. And finally, knowing Ed as you do and working with him as you formerly did, do you think that he's going to stick around in kind of front level politics for a while, or do you think that he may end up thinking that, you know what, the ways that I can impact the change that I believe in the most may well be outside of Westminster?
I think that comes to where sort of society is. I think there's a reason he's still in Parliament, and it's not just purely because he feels he owes something to his constituency. It's because he has big ideas to contribute, whether that's through the form of his podcast or elsewhere. And the fact that as I said, the Green New Deal stuff in particular has given some energy back to a man who, as Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change and others, had something to say on this issue, shows that you can make a difference in the House of Commons. Particularly when the quality of debate, as we've seen in the past couple of weeks, is fairly low. So I would hope that he would stick around and lead areas of this debate and continue to contribute.
James, really appreciate you coming on. Really great insight again, actually. And it is a fascinating idea, isn't it, to think about, right, if Brexit had never happened, we'd be more focused on our own kind of national development, I suppose, as a nation. You've just seen the key topics there: NHS, property, immigration, climate change, devolution. These are massive topics, and instead what we have got at the moment is kind of rather childlike politicians just shouting at each other. This is why Boris Johnson is saying that we just need to get Brexit done. Of course, this is why other people would turn around and go, well, we shouldn't really do it at all.
Yeah, no, it's consumed me. I do wonder what I'd have achieved if I hadn't have put so much focus on Brexit. It's 25 minutes to 10.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it. Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Love Sport.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. Thoroughly enjoyed that, Patrick. We're now going to head back to the back pages, aren't we?
Yes, we are indeed, and there's lots going on. We've not really touched on this yet, but there's obviously there's trouble at Tottenham. Mauricio Pochettino has apparently held clear the air talks with shell-shocked stars after their 7-2 thrashing. And look, for what it's worth as well, I thought there was a really irresponsible Tottenham-related headline on the back of the Times today.
Go on.
Eriksen denies affair rumour.
Oh.
So Christian Eriksen denied yesterday that one of his Tottenham Hotspur teammates, Jan Vertonghen, had an affair with his girlfriend as he attempted to end speculation of the club's poor form. Was linked to off-the-field distractions. Apparently, this caused a big falling out with Harry Kane. Now, this isn't true.
No.
But the fact is, just having it on the back page means that people are going to wildly speculate about what happened in a way that's entirely inappropriate.
Well, this is what frustrates me. It's like it doesn't deserve any airtime because naturally people are going to wonder what might have happened if it were true, but it's obviously not true.
How did they find the time? Because they trained together. How's Jan managed to go round there?
And like, how do they communicate? Is it via text, WhatsApp, Snapchat, Instagram? Like, what medium did they use?
The whole thing. How do they avoid the paparazzi? Because they're going to get caught. Was it just a case of it was a kind of random meeting? Maybe they crossed each other in the street, made the eyes, didn't know who each other was.
What about the mental turmoil that she would have been going through hypothetically if she sat in the stand watching them both play, thinking, "Oh, what have I done?
Yeah, who do I cheer for?" And obviously poor Harry Kane as well. He'd have to get in the middle of this and say something like, "Stop it, guys."
Yeah, you will see.
I mean, but
that's
this
what
is
the club captain does. But we must stress this is the whole point. It's so annoying.
It's not true.
It's just not true.
It's not true, and there's no point talking about it, which is why nobody should. But just if he had an affair with his teammate, what do you reckon kind of damage would do in the dressing room, Rich?
It'd be tough. I mean, if only there were an example of something like this that had happened before with a team and teammates.
Anyway, coming up later, we got John Terry on the show. John, JT.
Anyway, back to some actual sport. I can see that Kieran has hurriedly put his mic down, which means he wants to butt in.
Patrick, stop! Stop now! No, that's what I shout in his ear on an hourly basis.
Yeah, you can't stop him though. This is the issue. Once he gets carried away.
I know. Working with him for too long now.
Right,
but,
are you going to bring us back on track?
I
Kieran?
am. Yeah, I'm going to do a little profile on Dina Asher-Smith actually, because she has put her names in the history books of British athletics, British sport. I'd say, by becoming the first ever female British athlete to win a sprint gold medal at the World Championships. Obviously, fantastic time of 21.88 seconds, which would have won the World Championship 13 out of 17 times. So it does show that she is a world-class athlete, not just now, but in history. And I just want to give a bit more background on what she's been doing, really, to get to this point. So she's 23. And a few months ago, she was juggling 4 hours of training a day with a dissertation on how jazz shaped America. Now, it's I know, right? It's slightly kind of from very different social circles, I can imagine. But it's quite interesting. She was an only child. She grew up in her family's semi-detached home in Orpington, southeast London, and she tried diving, hockey, and swimming. While also learning the trumpet and euphonium, which I've never heard of. Patrick, what is a euphonium? Do you know?
Look now. Can I have a look?
Literally never heard of it. For all her sporting success, she has described the best morning of her life as the moment she received her A-level results during the 2014 European Championship. So this girl is not just a supremely talented athlete, but intelligent, bright, bubbly when she comes into any sort of mix zone. It's great to see that this is an athlete, a female athlete as well, which will inspire so many people. We talked about the Women's World Cup quite a lot this summer and how that will inspire a generation of football as well. Dina's success in Doha, despite being watched by about 20 people, thankfully we have the TV feed and should inspire a hell of a lot of young women.
I love that. That obviously when she was interviewed after, it's obviously quite emotional, but she does come across as being really genuine. You look at, we talk about sports personality of the year, and sometimes we make fun of the sports personality of the year because they do lack personality from time to time. But she seems like she has got the full package. She's obviously incredible at what she does. She is now a world champion, but she seems to have all of these other parts to the puzzle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And at 23, the world's her oyster now. She's proved it on the track, and I think we'll see a lot more of her off the track in terms of the advertising campaigns that she'll inevitably get following this. Her 3 A's at A-level followed 9 A-star grades at GCSE. So she studied history at King's College London, which I happen to be an alumnus of, so represent Dina Asher-Smith.
Oh, I'm going to let anyone in there, will they?
Yeah, that's right, exactly, yeah. I mean, she's absolutely bossing it on the world stage, and I'm bossing it at Love Sport Radio, so,
It is when you hear that, you get it in football all the time, don't you? But when you hear that, she's 23 years old, it just makes you feel so awful about yourself, doesn't it?
Well, this goes back to, you almost feel like when you're born there's lots of different categories, and God, if you believe in God, will give you kind of different attributes, and every now and then you'll get someone like this where they just give them everything. You know, someone like you is a great example. Look, you're very intelligent, I'll give you that.
Thank you, mate.
But like, you haven't got a sporting bone in your body, but it's
That's
okay
not true at all.
because it's kind of it's balanced out by the fact that God gave you intelligence,
Right.
but just made you really uncoordinated.
I'm not
so
uncoordinated.
so it's kind of like, but this is where it should be.
Flashing you here, Pat.
No, but you know what I mean.
Just
It's
lies.
like, no, but you know what I'm saying. It's like, that makes sense. It's like, right, focus on what you're good at.
Yeah.
But just don't do any kind of exercise. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Whereas someone like Dina, she's been given everything.
Well, that's it, and as well, and I mean, I think that this is the thing that God didn't really necessarily bless you with looks, but He did give you the money to fix them.
Right.
You know, so there's that, isn't there?
So is this how you fight fire with fire?
Yeah. Come out swinging. No, but just on a serious note about Dean Rasher-Smith, I would ask everyone, I would urge everyone to go and have a look at this Twitter video of her greeting her mum in the stadium, and I dare you not to cry. Actually, it was really emotional, and just what a nice shift up it is from what we've seen, this kind of scandal hit athletics. We all know what's been going on now with Salazar, and it's dragged Mo Farah into it, and Seb Coe, who fronts up World Athletics, has just gone about it, for my money, in the worst way possible, just criticising the coverage of an empty stadium and all this kind of stuff. This is what we want. This is what gets bums on seats, actually. This is what boosts the popularity at grassroots level athletics. It's not, you know, going and doping and doing all that kind of stuff. It's the fact that Dean Rasher-Smith is just a normal girl who's gone out and run her heart out and managed to bring home gold medal in a British record time in front of her tearful mum in the stand. That is what gets people going.
It would have won the World Championships 13 times out of the last 17 occasions, so it was a brilliant time, and you get the impression at the age she's at as well that this won't be the last. We'd like to think.
I think so. I think we'll see much more of Dean Rasher-Smith.
On that fantastically positive note, we'll be back shortly, 9:45.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family content insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com. When it came for this year's renewal, I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. Told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it. Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
I love it when it's windy. That way you can tell it's my real hair.
Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys here with you for about another 10 minutes or so, and then the excellent Martin Bell is up next. I've just witnessed one of the most selfish acts that I've witnessed for quite some time. Do you want to fill our listeners in, Patrick? Or
well, went out and got a cup of water and didn't get you on it as well. The joke I was going to make there was wholly inappropriate, which is why I've just told the truth. So, what are we talking about now then, Kieran Wellington?
We are going to be talking about the England squad, which is being announced, I believe, Kieran.
Yeah, it's going to be announced today for the upcoming European qualifiers against Czech Republic and Bulgaria. Now, scrolling through Twitter, as I always like to do, just to see what stories are coming up when we're on air. Sky have collated a 23-man squad based on their power rankings.
Okay,
which they do. I'd just be keen to get your thoughts on it. and whether you think the stats actually back up the selection and whether the Southgate should go with some of these, if not all of these names. So let's start with the goalkeepers, because we do have our resident goalkeeper in the studio. The 3 goalkeepers by stats that should get into this England squad are Nick Pope.
Yeah, agreed.
Aaron Ramsdale.
Agreed.
Dean Henderson.
Wow, no Jordan Pickford, no Tom Heaton.
Isn't that interesting? That's really interesting.
Well,
that's going to youth, isn't it? And it shows how good Ramsdale and Henderson have started the season. And these guys probably have the potential to be better than Pickford and Heaton, I'd argue.
That is a fair point. Interesting, that's even with, of course, a mistake that Dean Henderson made at the weekend, but they have both started incredibly well this season. Aaron Ramsdale in particular, I'm slightly biased because I do know Aaron quite well, but he's one that's come through, really burst onto the scene. Of course, AFC Wimbledon know him very well from last season. Arguably kept them up single-handedly, an incredible back end of the season that he had, and I wasn't surprised to see him get given his chance this season, and he has been phenomenal and been a big part in Bournemouth's positive start to the season.
Absolutely, and when you're playing in a team like Bournemouth, I think it's a great place, isn't it, to learn your trade and play your trade. You're going to face some chances because of the way Bournemouth play, but equally you're in a successful team, a positive team.
True, lovely part of the world as well, some great beaches.
Oh, it is actually stellar.
Yes, absolutely. Let's move on to the defenders. So Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kieran Trippier will still get in the team according to the power rankings.
Power ranking.
But the third right back, Matthew Lowton.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want someone who can smash a ball into Rose Ed from any angle on the pitch, then Lowton's your man.
He's in form, Patrick. He's in the power rankings.
Does it say why he's in the power rankings?
I'll find out in a minute.
Brown envelope that was seen being delivered. That's untrue.
The fullbacks, Ben Chilwell and Aaron Cresswell, which I think is probably fair enough, isn't it, at left back?
It's fair. I want to question some images I saw of Ben Chilwell this morning on TV.
Yeah,
I think he's gone for the old school curtains.
He's one of the few people that looks worse than his Madame Tussauds waxwork.
Yeah.
It looks like his hair's been stuck on.
I do question what product he's been using on his hair.
I also question why Madame Tussauds would have got a waxwork of Ben Chilwell.
Yeah, well, so did I.
Is that actually true, or have you just made that up?
No, I'm just saying if there was a waxwork
There was.
There
is.
Sorry,
no
yes.
waxwork. Yeah, correct.
And the centre-backs are quite interesting. James Tarkowski.
Wow.
Fikayo Tomori.
Okay.
Harry Maguire.
Yep.
And Dan Burn.
Dan Burn.
Dan Burn.
Okay.
According to the stats, should get in this England team. So that leaves out, from the defence, Michael Keane, Danny Rose, Joe Gomez and Tyrone Mings, who all made the last squad.
In fairness, Dan Burn has been on fire.
Am I the only one who thinks that Michael Keane steals a living as a Premier League footballer?
Yeah, a little bit.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, well, I
used to play against him as a kid, and I understand that obviously he's kicked on a bit, but you'd never notice. You'd have never noticed. I was playing against him for like 5 or 6 years before someone went, "Oh, he plays for United," because he used to play for United. I was like, "Really?" And then he's gone, and you just see him in the Premier League, and then he does things in an England shirt, like pass it immediately to their forward about 30 seconds into a match. And you think, yes, that's the guy I know.
Well, Michael Keane didn't make these rankings, did he?
No.
He didn't. Dan Burn, because Dan Burn's hot right now.
Okay, all right, moving on.
Well, Dan Burn has, just to give some stats, he's made 11 tackles this season, 12 interceptions and 25 aerial duels. Now, for a big lad, I mean, he's expected to win in the defensive capabilities, but it's not about that, is it? When you face Czech Republic and Bulgaria, you're not exactly looking for the attributes that Dan Burn possesses.
No, I'm pleased for Tarkowski, of course, because former teammate of mine. Now, you're sort of seeing this production line, actually Michael Keane being a good example of that, who then move on for a lot of money. You do wonder whether if Tarkowski has another good season, whether he'll be the next of the Burnley defenders. Sean Dyche, of course, being a defender himself, it doesn't surprise me that he's producing brilliant defenders at Burnley.
Is this too soon for Fikayo Tomori to get into the squad, do you reckon?
Not the way he's playing.
No, this is the argument, isn't it? It's how much is the power of recency, how much does it matter? And actually, at the moment, you're right, he has had a very, very good start to the season.
Midfielders. Mason Mount, James Maddison, Declan Rice, Todd Cantwell and Jack Grealish.
Okay.
What do we reckon? That's a dynamic.
I like the Rice and Maddison angle there, I think. And Mason Mount as well. I quite like that.
Yeah, well, Grealish. Credit to him. And do you know what interesting? This is a Villa team that have started okay, not brilliantly at all, but the fact that he's in that is interesting.
Yeah, and I read a stat the other day that he's made like the second most blocks in the Premier League. And it's like everyone assumes he's a number 10, but he's played slightly deeper for Villa, just in the way that they're setting up under Dean Smith. And it's quite interesting. He has become a very mature midfielder, all-action midfielder.
What I like about him especially is you can tell he looks like the type of guy that on a stag do refuses to blow the fire out on the top of a Sambuca before he drinks it. And I want that in a central midfielder.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever drunk a Sambuca with some fire?
No comment. It's not about me.
Right.
But yeah, I know. I think he's that kind of guy. The slightly, he's got the kind of wild look in his eyes. I want you patrolling my midfield.
Does that explain the fire on the train this morning?
Yeah, it does.
Was this what you were doing for
Off my
fun?
nuts.
What about attacking options?
Yeah, well, just to say that would leave out Henderson, Barkley, and Winks from the last squad. Henderson, I think, will always make it because he seems to be that kind of robust central midfielder that we lack in some areas, and the leadership, as I've mentioned on this show before, that Henderson possesses. I think Southgate will always pick Henderson, but I think Winks and Barkley probably aren't in the best of form at the moment and could get left out.
Okay, interesting. Anyone else on the list?
Yeah, so the forwards, we have Raheem Sterling, of course, Jadon Sancho, of course, and then the kind of more conventional strikers, Tammy Abraham.
Nigerian, but yeah.
Oh, okay. English, but yeah. Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Callum Wilson and Marcus Rashford.
So this is the big decision, isn't it? Because Tammy Abraham will get a call-up. He has to get a call-up. Does that mean, if I'm right in thinking, that we're talking about whether he's going to choose Nigeria or choose England? We, of course, hope he chooses England. Does he have to make his decision today? If he's called up and he's in the squad, that means he's made his decision, right?
Well, it doesn't, because he has played for England before in a friendly. So it's until you play a full international for your country of choice, then I think that's what rules it out. So
he'll have to get on the pitch, though, won't he? So if he's my understanding is that if he agrees to play and he sits on the bench for an entire game, that's not a cap, is it?
No.
Okay.
Does that count as a cap?
What happens then if they want to bring him on a minute to go and he's like, you're only doing this
Yeah,
because...
well, this is it, isn't
and
it?
then he refuses to get off the bench.
Do you remember we did this with Cole Jenkinson? So he was thinking about playing for Finland, right? And then I think it was Hodgson at the time. It's just like, we'll give Jenko a cap, right? So he can't play for any other country. That I'm pretty sure that was his own league cap.
Yeah, but the fact they did it, they wanted to secure him. So in some ways it was a compliment, but it then obviously snookered him and meant that he couldn't ever explore any other options. They never did it with me, interestingly.
Well, you were in the England under-21s, weren't you?
Yeah, but it doesn't count, does it? So the full national team, I thought they might have just given me a minute here and there just to secure me, but I think they probably knew that I'm so English that I would never have chosen anyone else.
Well,
maybe.
are you just fully English?
Yeah, of course.
Right, so...
Is it true? I didn't have...
It's such a moot point.
I didn't have any other options.
You're all right, mate.
Yeah, now you made that point. That actually kind of kills my point, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does indeed. Well, I mean, there's plenty of goals in this forward line for England. And I'd quite like to touch on this. Is this the best front three that England have had?
I think it's one of the best front threes in the world. I think, when you look at... the way that PSG's fully fit front three lines up, Barcelona's fully fit front three. You look at this England side and you're like, that is dangerous.
Well, is there a way we can cram Tammy Abrahams into this so we can have...
play him instead of Harry Kane.
Sancho... Whoa. Controversial.
Yeah, the Golden Boot winner, Harry Kane.
Yeah, I'd have Tammy Abrahams in there. At the moment, just going off form, I'd have him in there. I'd have a front three of Sancho, Sterling and Abraham. With Abraham in the middle.
What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. Let us know. Not that we're going to deal with it because we're off.
Yeah. See
you
in a bit.
You can,
bye-bye.
You can have that conversation with Martin Bell, who is up next. A fantastic Martin Bell. We're, of course, back tomorrow at 6:30 as always. Kieran, thank you. Patrick, thank you. My name is Richard Lee. You've been listening to Love Sport. We'll be back tomorrow. Stay tuned. 3 minutes to 10.
This is Love Sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in